fashion, music, media, world politics, the state of affairs in Canada. We will be talking about none of these things tonight. I am CW Chanter, your illustrious host, and we're looking forward to a fantastic, wonderful show tonight. We're going to be taking a little bit of a break. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently tonight. We've been talking about Goode, trademark law, morals and ethical implications of that stuff, the Blue Avians and all that stuff. We may talk and discuss some of that stuff tonight, but we're not concentrating on that stuff tonight. What we're concentrating on tonight is having a nice little interesting discussion about the state of the spiritual community. The state of the spiritual community. People have been concentrating. There's some people that concentrate on the nuts and bolts of conspiracy, the real politic of things, what happened, what, where, when, and how, the steel, the nuts and the bolts of the UFO, the TR-38s, and what have you. We're going to take a break from that and worrying about that stuff, and we're going to talk about spirituality and spiritual community and the state of the spiritual community as it stands today. Though it's a nebulous thing, it's hard to point to, hard to define words that people use. Is there a community? Isn't there a community? Is it a number of different communities? We can explore and talk about those things as well. I'm joined today, not only do you get the joy of hearing my lovely voice, but I'm joined today by two other wonderful voices as well. We have Rob Gauthier. All right.
That's perfect.
Famed channeler, international bon vivant, man about town, wonderful person who I've been looking forward to speaking to for some time. Even before I started my YouTube channel, myself personally, there were many different people that I was interested in, loved to follow on YouTube and love to catch. And as far as the channelers were concerned, Rob is a guy that I saw early and I made sure to see often. I really love his work. I really love the stuff that he does. He's not going to be channeling for us today, unfortunately, but he's got other work to do. But he will have his energy to talk about as a participant observer in this community. We're going to have some fun talking about the morals and ethics of channeling. People know that that's subjects that I've touched upon, what it is, what it isn't, what's the appropriate and proper use of these things, how it ties into other ancient traditions that we know about from human history that have been engaged in. And it's going to be a wonderful opportunity to talk and discuss with a new person on the channel who you may not have been familiar with before. Hopefully you get to know and love him as much as I do now. And yeah, it'll be wonderful. In addition to that, we also have the lovely Karen. Not that Rob isn't lovely in his own right, but we also have the lovely Karen Neumann with us. If you don't know, Karen was lovely enough to extend an invitation to me to talk on the Hucolo 2 YouTube channel and network, which was a wonderful experience for me because I was very familiar with the work of Hucolo and the Hucolo organization, their whole vibe they have over there. So it was a wonderful feeling to be invited over there, and I had a wonderful time talking to Karen and her other guests on that broadcast. If you look at my my playlist, CW Chanter in the Wild, you'll be able to find that video. So let me, now that I've introduced you, my finest professional talk show way, why don't we go and ask people how they're doing today? I'll go in reverse order. We started with Rob as far as introduction. So Karen, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's 2:00 in the morning in Holland, which is where I am. So I took a little nap and got up so that we could do this show. Yeah, well, but I'm excited to be here. And it's actually daylight savings today, right now. So it's going to be 1 o'clock as soon as it hits 2 o'clock. So
I don't know I forget how the mechanics of it work. If I'm supposed to be happy that the hour is going back or forward, and I don't know what it means for someone.
Be happy all the time.
It's beautiful.
It's swing forward, fall back. So we're going to fall back in about 7 minutes.
So okay. And once it gets to 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, forget it. All bets are off. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah.
Even though I've often tried to keep an eye on the clock because I don't know if anyone else has experienced this in their life. But the worst things in the world, I think it's 3 o'clock is the real magic hour. It's like the worst things in the world always happen after 3 o'clock in the morning. Like if you're still up with your homies at 3 o'clock in the morning, there ain't nothing good gonna happen. It's just gonna be something.
Nothing good happens after 3 a.m., right?
Nothing good happens after 3 a.m. And it's like, what's the, I mean, I swear I have friends who like come 2:59, like run into their place like they're going to be hunted down by the American werewolf in wherever town they're from. You know, they get out of Dodge like it's magic, because it is. And every time that I've had like a session, like a live stream go haywire, or I started just talking like insanity, it's always been like 3 o'clock in the morning, you know?
I'll try to keep myself under control.
Try and keep yourself under control. Or we'll know when daylight savings time is kicked in, when you start going wild and out, and we'll be like, it's 3 o'clock somewhere. There you go.
That's it.
Watch out for, and I don't know what 3 o'clock in Holland is like. Oh, geez Louise. There you go. I'm teasing. Rob, how you doing tonight, baby?
I'm doing great, brother. It's nice to be here. Me and you have had a chance to talk, but not like this, so it's going to be an amazing night. I'm doing great. My son just went to his mother's. Me and Kalina getting ready to go to North Carolina, so a lot of cool stuff. It's been fun.
Fantastic. Business or pleasure out in North Carolina?
Both. She's got family out there, and we're doing our 3-day workshop, so it'll be awesome.
Okay, beautiful. Good luck with that. And if there's anything you want to promote or anything you want to talk about in regards to that, feel free to let us know.
Will do. Thank you, brother.
Anytime. I might as well tell the story. You know, I like I said before, I was a fan of Rob from even before I began my YouTube channel. It never occurred to me to really reach out to him, though he was definitely on the list of people I would have loved to speak to, because being me, you know, I don't know if it's some sort of spiritual ugly duckling syndrome. I don't know what words to put upon it, but sometimes I know that I've got a slightly different vibe than other people in the spirit. Some people would say, look at me and my antics and behavior sometimes and say, you consider yourself spiritual? What? So when it comes to Rob, it never occurred to me that to reach out to him, only because I thought, you know, I didn't know, though I was familiar with his work and thought that he was a lovely human being. I didn't really know how he would respond to my antics and interactions online. However, during what people may remember over this last summer, the so-called, I don't want to say so-called, the event, people got very excited in the community. People started talking. People had different ideas about it. It went through the QHHT community in particular like wildfire. People were very interested in things and what was going on. And I did my participation in the form of a live channeling from Disney World, of all places, right outside of Mary Poppins' little English village, I guess it was, or whatever. And lo and behold, what happened? I got a YouTube comment from the ET Whisperer. I was like, holy gosh darn, you gotta be kidding me. Whoa, I was over the moon. And we went back and forth via text for a little bit. And I said, you know, we definitely should get together and talk. And we're like, yeah, let's set an intention on it. Let's make it happen. And for whatever reason, it didn't happen. But then, like life, it did happen. And it's happening right now. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And the best thing is, it's the part that got my attention to you was the videos you were making about channeling and the channeling of people who are passed on and the channeling of people's higher selves. And it was something that was drawn to my attention too, by my own localized community. So when I was looking things up like that, I saw your video go through a Facebook feed, clicked on it, I fell in love with you instantly, because you're that real guy, man. You're the guy who says what they think and puts it all out there. And that's what I love more than anything. That's the best. So
good. Well, look, it's destiny. It's ships in the night. There you go. Spaceships in the night, I guess. You know what I mean? More appropriate. But then maybe we've already struck upon our first topic of conversation, because it's a topic of conversation. What always gets me about the spirituality, the spiritualist, mediumship, channeling community, that has always been something that I thought is so important, yet is never discussed. And I think something that once it starts to get discussed more often will be an indication that the community is maturing in a way that makes it less like a circus act or a gypsy fortune teller thing, and more like what I think it really is, which is a manifestation of human spirituality and human faith and religion. though some of those words might be unattractive to certain people under certain conditions. The question being the morality and the ethics implicit in channeling. Not only what can a person necessarily do with their abilities and what those abilities mean, but also how we use those abilities, how we use those things, however you understand it. People who at home know and understand that I say things that blow people's minds or frustrate people, like I'm an atheist, I'm not an atheist. I believe in the authenticity of channeling, but it is also a manifestation. I don't know whether it's a manifestation of human psychology, human sociology, or a real testimony to the power of the spirit. I believe in reincarnation. I don't know if it's true. I say things like this, and it's the best way that I have to understand and explain the honesty of where I am and who I am as a person. But insofar as one thing that I always knew and understood was there are many people, many things that we see in this channeling community that I thought had heavy moral and ethical implications that no one was engaging in. And Rob just said it right there. The channeling of people who have passed on and the channeling of living people's higher selves. So I've had an opportunity to talk about it on this forum as well. So and people get a chance to hear my crackly voice all the time. So let me throw it to you guys, and whoever wants to jump on it first to kind of just share on that, and let's get the conversation started.
By all means, Karen, if you want to start. If not, I'm happy to.
Okay, I'll just add my piece, because I'll just say that, you know, channeling is mediumship. There's really no difference between the two of them. The difference in what we're seeing these days is that everyone is accessing their innate ability to channel, whereas before there was certain people that did it, and then they were sort of off on the side, and you would go to them, and it would be a very sort of distinct thing that you would do. But in this day and age, that's not the way it's happening, which is a good thing. But if you look back at like the spiritualist church, people were trained to be mediums. There is and still is, if you are in the UK, there is like a code of conduct when it comes to channeling. Who do you channel? What information are you looking for? The guide of mediumship is supposed to be that the reason for mediumship to exist at all is to only help people realize that there's more than just this world, this life. And then, you know, but when you're doing mediumship in that way, it's very, very basic. It's you tune into someone, you get the name of the person that passed on, how they died, and some message from them. And it pretty much stops there. Channeling takes it to a different, deeper level, and is also accessing not only, you know, deceased people, but, you know, incarnated people, people without bodies. There's beings, all kinds of different levels. And it's sort of lost, I don't want to say it's lost it, but those ethics that were put in place because of it being a practice that had a purpose and a goal kind of got overrun by, I think, just the sheer volume of people that are now just spontaneously channeling. Some of them sit down and they learn to channel. Rob teaches channeling classes. I teach channeling classes, and I talk about it in my classes. I'm sure Rob does as well. But then there's just the people who see it as a means to, you know, I've seen people start channeling. They're like, oh, I'm starting my own YouTube channel. And they don't even know what they're doing. You know, there's no understanding of who they're channeling, what they're channeling, and why. And that's just really like, people need to take a little deep breath and understand what it is that they're tapping into, not because it's bad or evil or dangerous, but because what is the purpose behind it? And that really goes back to the personal goal of the person. Are you in service to humanity? Are you self-serving? What is the difference? So that's just the piece I wanted to add about it. But you know, I've seen that since the beginning, having been a channel, having been trained in the mediumistic, and I think Rob was too. Weren't you trained in the spiritualist church, Rob? I think you were.
For a little bit, yeah. They were the ones who got me started on the meditation.
Yeah, so you know that. So yeah, so that's the only thing I wanted to add about it.
Okay.
Okay.
All those are beautiful points, and I think that has a lot to add with it. For me, I understand what channeling is to the people outside of the channeling community. And I think UCW have made a very good point to explain to people. There's a larger community, there's off branches, sub branches of the off branches, and there's all different parts. So for our channeling community, I understand people who understand the channeling in the same way I do. But for people who don't, channeling, it is healthy to be skeptical about channeling. It's healthy to use your discernment inside and outside of channeling. So for me, I don't try to express that my channeling comes from this Ardif and Treb and all these different entities, because it's not my job to make people believe or not to believe. That's their own deal. And that's why when I've heard you say before, is channeling just an expansion of somebody's consciousness? Is it an expansion of their psychology? It could be. And that's fine. The point is, what do you get from it? Mm-hmm. What do you receive from the channeling? And when these lines that we're talking about, the implications of what channeling should be or what it could be, when people start doing like one of three things, it's usually a red flag for me. When someone comes out and they're interested in channeling and only channeling for the benefit of putting on these grandiose shows or grandiose events, putting it on because they're financially motivated to do so, that can be a red flag. Every channeler I know did channeling for free for at least the first few years. And once people wanted it enough, then they say, you know, I would rather do this than go to my factory job or babysit the kids or work. So maybe I should start charging. And you know, having money for channeling is not a disrespectful thing. I do it myself. That's how I make a living. So it's not just about the receiving of money. It's the intention and attitude behind that part. The other flags for me are when people are speaking for others that have no way of authenticating, no way of knowing, or no way of receiving that information except for through their own perspective of channeling. Because channeling can be, like for myself, I'm a deep trance channeler. So when I go into channeling, I do not connect to my own thought processes. I don't hear what's going on. I separate myself. And I think I did that for a reason. So I could tell that what's coming through is authentic and resonated for me. But for other people, they can say, oh, I got these thoughts. Oh, I'm channeling. One of the people who was teaching channeling with me in a class long ago, a lady named Roxanne, she said, channeling is not just bringing in these entities. It is focusing your energy and putting it on anything. And even a recipe for an apple pie can be channeled. And that's true. People channel music. You channel when you're on this show talking to everybody. Channeling is that insight. Yeah. It's that pure insight and inward. But when you're bringing in information about people who have died, people who are famous who died hundreds of years ago, or someone's family member, and you're not being asked to bring that through, it's not, in my belief, I don't think that's your place. And especially when you're talking to the third part, the higher self. How would anyone in the world like me to stand on stage and say, hey guys, CW Chanter thinks this guy's a piece of garbage, and there is 100%, even though I've never talked to the guy, even though he's never told me that, he's a piece of garbage, and that's a fact. That's truth. I mean, look at what we're going through with all of the discernment issues that you've been talking about lately, the Corey Goode, the community at large. To put words in another person's mouth or to project yourself into a position of knowing, I mean, nobody would want that done to themselves. So I don't understand why. And that's, like I said, that was the reason I connected to you with your videos and your stuff, because you said the very unpopular opinion or very not talked about opinion that there should be at least things talked about what's too much, what's too far. Right. Channeling altogether, on the far branches of our community think every channeling is way too far.
Yeah,
So
no,
you gotta ask, right?
There are people out there going, these guys, it's like talking about a slippery slope. It's like, you know what I mean? Like what level of disbelief or, you know, or believing in ridiculous concepts or thoughts is too far, you know what I mean? But this is what human beings do. For every person that's a pragmatic unbeliever, there's people who gather at interfaith, you know, breakfasts and dinners, and then have to walk out and say, well, look, it's a beautiful thing that we got together. But at the same time, if we're totally frank and honest, you know, my book and his book both say that we could get together and have dinner if we want to. If we're not playing by the right rules, and we're all saying that we've got the right rules, there's a problem. But I don't know, you know. So what I got from hearing you guys, you know, share your initial thoughts and impressions of, you know, building off what Karen was talking about, this notion of the use and the utility of this stuff, and of this stuff being, for me, this stuff has been tied to a tradition, though we're in this, you know, weird and wacky YouTube, Facebook, New Age conceptualization of these things, whether we're talking about geomancy, or whether we're talking about mediumship, or whether we're talking about even tarot card readings and stuff, this stuff is tied, or alchemy, this stuff is tied to traditions. And really with the channeling stuff, I mean, ancestor worship is one of the first aspects of faith. Even sociologists in trying to figure out when religion or spirituality or organized spirituality began for particular people or particular tribe, always looked to indications like the first buryings of the dead, the first systematic burial practices. And so a lot of this stuff does have a real utility for people, and kind of seeing myself somewhere finding a truth somewhere in the middle of what Karen was sharing and what Rob was sharing, is that for what purpose are you doing these things? For what's your agenda? How pure you're being, and like, what is the audience? Like, I've got a lot less moral and ethical reservations thinking about a one-on-one session between a channeler and a person who has come to a channeler with a particular desire and need, whether it's closure, or whether it's to experience an energy again, or whether it's just to venerate and worship a loved one who has passed to the other side, but not through the tombstone, or not through the prayer or the remembrance or the lit candle, but rather through a more active, participatory, audio visual experience with another person. Are there moral and ethical implications there? Sure, there's moral and ethical implications to what we put on our dinner plate, or how we got our food. So there's moral and ethical implications there for sure, but I don't experience revulsion like I do when I turn on YouTube and I see that someone's channeling Michael Jackson, or they're channeling Prince, and it's always, or they're channeling some victim of the dead. And let me throw this out there, you know, moral and ethical implications of this stuff. I think of two scenarios that I want to share with you guys and maybe get some feedback on. Number one, yeah, the channeling of the celebrity who has passed, whether it's Michael Jackson and Prince. I say these two names because we all know in this community, these are two guys that often, and it's so interesting that these two guys get channeled all the time, because both of these individuals we know were professed Jehovah's Witnesses. So both of these individuals would not really want to have, knowing what we know about the Jehovah's Witness tradition and accepting at face value the fact that they were committed to these faiths like they professed to be, and there's no reason not to, because when both these individuals were alive on planet Earth, on this sphere, when they talked about their spirituality and faith, they had no reservations about identifying with a particular denomination and a particular point of view regarding the other side, what happens, what transpires, the notion of an elect. And so to have people just willy-nilly channel these people, I think to myself, like, what are you doing here? And it's always, and there's oftentimes titillation. There's often also, I never understand the value of asking Marilyn Monroe how she really died, or what got her. You know, I mean, it's like, what are we doing, and why? Why are we doing this? And then to take a person, and when you do that, even assuming that the channeling is successful, to take somebody's energy and to take it, and where's the permission being granted? And then just all of a sudden putting it out there. Because oftentimes I just think really what people are doing is putting they're not really, what I say is you're not even really channeling the individual themselves. You're channeling your Michael Jackson, your Prince. Even when people are the most authentic with delivering these messages, I often think, are you really touching the crystal that was the data, the real soul and energy of that person, wherever it may be now? Or are you really telling us about and giving us a testimony to, if you were to play Prince or Michael Jackson in a movie, or if you were to write a screenplay about them, what do you think that they would say? And you might be authentically channeling something, but it might not be Michael Jackson so much as it's your Michael Jackson, built up from your years of listening to Thriller on the hi-fi, or having a particular position and a reaction to people persecuting him, or what he did do or what he didn't do. The other thing I think about when I think about those things is not only the vibe of the energy and what offense that individual might take on whatever plane that they might be, the person being channeled, but also the loved ones of these individuals. People channel Michael Jackson all the time. Michael Jackson has living children. Michael Jackson had, up until recently, a mother and father on planet Earth. Michael Jackson still has a mother on planet Earth. Michael Jackson and Prince have family on planet Earth. How would you feel? How would you feel honestly if someone were to say to you, oh, hey, Rob, you haven't spoken to your dad in a long time. Well, guess what? Here he is for all the world to see, saying things that you might agree with, might disagree with about who they were, saying things that you'd say, hey, Dad would never say that. Dad would never say that. And then just to be sitting there as a passive audience person. And the other thing that I want to throw out to you guys is this, you have the celebrity, the person that we channel, that's a wonderful person. Also, another class of individuals that who passed away, who get channeled all the time, that we not only have to think about the implications of the justice that we do to them or the injustice we do to them when they get channeled, is people like Adolf Hitler, or the 9/11 terrorists, or Jack the Ripper. And it's like, there's all sorts of implications for not only the people that are loved ones of these people on planet Earth, there's also all sorts of implications for the people that suffered as a result of what these individuals did or didn't do or are accused of doing. And so much weight is there, and yet I feel like people that consider themselves channels are also oftentimes the people that go forth and say things like, I'm an empath, you know what I mean? Or I'm an intuitive. And it's like, if you're an empath and you're an intuitive, how do you not know and understand? There's no preamble. There's no, and we know that people out here would think this way or that way about it. It's like the 9/11 terrorists, and you're going to say they're on the other side and they're at peace now. Okay, I can understand why a certain group of people might hear that and be like, you know what? We all end up at peace, and that's a beautiful thing. But there's also there's plenty of people who are like, don't you dare tell me that those people are at peace. Telling me that those people are at peace is putting me in a serious state of discontentment. No, I can't understand a universe that says that they're X number of years after the event where thousands of people suffered, and the implications of, especially if you look at the 9/11 terrorists and we look at the chain of causation, it's not just 9/11, it's then the invasion of Afghanistan and the wars in Iraq and the general war on terror and rendition, and who's a hero, who's a saint, who's a sinner, and who are you to just come out here and throw this on people and act like this is copacetic and cool. And for a bunch of people who are empaths, and I know I'm going on a bit, and I'm going to throw it to you guys, people are supposed to be empaths and intuitives. How could you not empathetically intuit that this would be a heavy, heavy thing, that the conversation that we're having tonight would be a conversation that's happening all the time? I rarely see it happen unless it's just someone asking a channeler a quick question on AM radio where it's like, oh, what do you think about the, oh, well, I take it, I mean, what have you. So that's my rant. So I'll throw it back to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you're right. And, we talk about the ethics part of it, and that's important. The way that people can feel family, I agree with all of that. But also, what are you getting from that? The way I see channeling, even if it's aliens from Zorpnop 9 talking about, how to best prepare yourself for a vacation, I mean, people can get something from that. As absurd as it might seem to people, someone can get something out of that. They're like, oh, this makes my life easier. This makes my life better. What does seeing one interpretation that might or might not be distorted from the person's beliefs, from the person's filters, or just from their sense of understanding of what these people went through? We can look at even people who've died hundreds of years ago, Alexander the Great. We can look at God. We can see the stories of their life. And if you're truly a believer that everyone goes back to peace, then you already know that those people are going to eventually go back into a state of oneness, light, whatever. So where's the quarrel there? What's the qualm there with you having to hear this information? Or even more so, if you're the channeler, why is that so important to share? I personally have a connection to Alexander the Great myself. I've connected with that energy. I understand that energy. But it's not my job to tell the story of what he's doing now. That's been done. He put he put his one lifetime worth of experience onto the earth for everyone to have. And that's what we're drawing from. I personally believe souls come into the earth, come into any planet to have experience. That's it. Experience. It doesn't matter if you're a good guy, bad guy. It's indifferent. All your soul wants is experience. So we play the parts. We come down here. We experience. Alexander the Great isn't Alexander the Great anymore. Hitler's not. So none of that's relevant. Even if you're telling the story of how wonderfully transcended that energy is, well, that's the story that applies with everyone if you're in that belief system. So you're not getting anything from that material. The higher selves of other people, they have to deal with their higher selves. That's what their life's about. Donald Trump can tell you exactly what he's thinking and feeling, or project out something else that he wants you to believe that he's thinking or feeling, and that's enough. We don't need to hear the conversation. Even if these channelers are tuning into them, it's not something that we have to know about or hear. We can make our own interpretations, our own empathetic or just logical conclusions, I think.
Go for it, Karen.
Oh, well, I have the same thought pattern. I think that, again, it comes down to what is the reason? And sometimes, and this has been a complaint that I've had a lot, is that some channelers are doing party tricks. Some people are just trying to show off, and there's not a real deep purpose to what they're doing. I take channeling very seriously. I take it as I'm able to tap into a higher energy, and the energy that I always want to share is for the benefit of the other person. Maybe the benefit for someone hearing Michael Jackson is, maybe it turns them on to that there's something more. If you go back to the premise of, mediumship as a basis is supposed to alert us to something more. But most of the time when people are really seeking those sort of arbitrary or, spectacular beings, they're not really, well, let me just say this. There's people that come to a channeling who really have soul searching questions that they want to ask, and they really have a problem that they want to solve, or they're really looking for a solution to their life. And there's other people who come to it for the spectacle of it, and they don't have those same goals. So you tend to attract, as a channel, the people that will resonate with you, and the people that are sort of channeling, this stuff, and it's just really light and there's not much substance to it. They're also attracting people who are not really ready to do the deep, the deep introspection and stuff like that. So I don't personally channel Michael Jackson or Prince, but I will tell you this. when I did, because I've done a lot of mediumship, and I used to do podium mediumship, where you actually stand on a podium and people like will hand you a ring or they'll hand you a picture, and then they want you to like tap into whomever they've given it. And there were so many people that like had abusive parents or abusive relationships with people, and that person is now passed on, and they didn't want to, what you were saying, they don't want to hear that this person is now in love and light. You know, they want to hear that they're in pain and in punishment. And so as a channel and as a medium, I had to sort of discern what it was that they were really looking for, you know, to give them the information in such a way, because, you know, everyone has a life review. If we believe that, everyone has an awareness of who they were in a different life. And so you can also just say about their awarenesses of their actions, knowing that they weren't living and acting in love and that they made bad choices. But to, you know, but some people want to hear, oh, that person's in hell and they're, you know, doing this. So I don't believe in that, but do you know what I'm saying? So it really depends. It comes down to the ethics, I think, of the person channeling. I believe personally that you can channel anything. Like Rob was saying, you can channel a recipe for apple pie. I believe you can channel rocks and trees and bugs, and you can tap into the energy and bring forward the consciousness of that being. But from what perspective are you offering that? You know, your vessel as a channel, you are supposed to be a clear tube so that the information can flow through, whatever the information is, whether it's love, light, or darkness. It still needs to be able to come through very easily. And until you can really do that, you're always bringing forward a part of your own personality. So you find that people who are very ethical and have, I would say, the most, you know, pure, without being the pure goals of channeling, they don't spend time on frivolity. They take what they're doing very seriously, and they're looking to bring forward the message of truth as best they can in the purest way that they can. You know, channeling's existed forever. It's been around forever and ever. And, you know, Sanskrit, which is what I'm obsessed with now, is a channeled language. I mean,
who's Sanskrit? I'm not familiar with his teachings or work.
The language Sanskrit. It's a channeled light language.
Go for it.
So, you know, those things, it just really depends. You know, you can choose to spend your time with what you're doing on anything. You can choose to spend it chasing after the ghost of Michael Jackson, or you can spend it figuring out ways to feed starving children. You know, that's up to the person, and it's really on them. And it's not, I don't know that it's an ethical question only based on what is the person that is doing this, and what is their bottom line goal. What are they trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. The other thing that I was thinking about when it comes to this sort of notion of channeling somebody's higher self, when it gets this whole notion of higher selves and you know, this sort of thing, I always think to myself, if anybody, like, in what way, shape, or form would the higher self of Donald Trump or the higher self of Hillary Clinton be distinguishable from each other? Because I have this notion that at some level, if you're talking about really the higher self, it's all going to be the same, because, you know, at that level of purity, it's all the same thing. It's all the same vibe. It's all basically source at that point, unless you're talking about just like a couple of levels up. Like, what would Donald Trump be like if he was just like a nicer, more compassionate guy? And it's like, under what you know, it's like, what do you mean? Like, you know, he might be doing something completely different.
Maybe in a different timeline reality.
Yeah. Or how about this? It's like, what's the point? I mean, first of all, the notion of this is that you can channel Donald Trump's higher self all you want to. We all know and understand you could everybody's got a conception of a higher self. Like, it's like, what is the nature of the just? Like, okay, but that doesn't change the fact that the guy that stabbed you in the back could have been a nicer, moral, ethical character who didn't engage in such behavior. But you have to deal with the is that is. It's like, there's an expression that I often come to all the time. It's actually a Lenny Bruce quote. It goes something like this. It goes, you know, the world that is, and the world that should be is a terrible lie that somebody told the people. It's like, you could channel Donald Trump's higher self all you want to. I'm just saying that he's one of the people that people channel his higher self, like any human being. Like, you could channel the higher self of C.W. Chanter. It doesn't change the fact that you're going to have to deal with the real life C.W. Chanter here on planet Earth. And, regardless of what wait for that. If you meet me in heaven, you'll interact with my higher self all you want to. In the meantime, you might as well talk to the real life me, or deal with the real life actions that I'm taking, or the real life decisions that I'm making in regards to you, or that impact you, or what have you.
Yeah. I just want to make one point, and I know Rob probably wants to make a point, but, if someone is channeling a higher self, someone else, I don't channel other people's higher selves, but I think Rob does. And I think that other people do. If you're doing that, what you're hoping for the person that you're channeling for is that you're revealing to them their best self, something that they can aspire to, and something that they can become aware of. Because for a lot of people, most things when it comes to our self-limiting beliefs have to do with past traumas and things that we've encountered in our life that keep us from really knowing ourselves and the fullness of who we are. So when you have someone else who can identify that to you and point you in that direction, you're actually offering them something valuable. That being said, I've met people who will sit there and tell me how they're Queen Elizabeth or they're Sir Lancelot in this life, but that yet they're not really a nice person. So it doesn't matter who they were. They're not even embodying what they could have been or should have were in another life. So that's also something for them to work to. So unless I'm not the occult priestess. Someone asked me about the occult priestess. No, I have some knowledge, but I'm not the occult priestess.
Well, there's an actual occult priestess that
I know.
that
I saw her.
Yeah. So
I'd love to talk to her. By the way, she seemed really awesome.
We might very well get her on. We'll see who's hanging out.
We'll get Myler Cat on here with us. But so I just want to say that there is a value in channeling someone's higher self, so that they can learn to access their own thing, their own knowing. It's all about us accessing the best part of ourselves and having, being able to find that within ourselves. And sometimes we need a little help. Sometimes you need a little training wheel situation before you're ready to ride the bike by yourself. And people like Rob facilitate that for people very beautifully, So there is value. Again, it's always down to the person doing it. And that's just the bottom line of it.
And it's the higher self too. It's one of those blanket terms. It's something that has so many different definitions. It's hard for people to understand. And Karen's right. I have channeled people's higher self aspects for themselves, but the higher self is like, the higher level of your own personality, better enlightened, but it's also the complete part of yourself, the entire entity. And when you get to that level of higher self, it is indistinguishable one from another. Of course, there are personal identifiable traits in each one of them, but they're completely neutral. They're like source energy. They don't care if you go around doing bad things or good things. They want the experience. And if you're in alignment with positive thoughts and you want a happy experience, then the higher self's job is to kind of help facilitate insights and to move that along. So regardless if you're touching a low higher self or the highest higher self, by whatever definition you give it, the part of is, if you're not the person asking, can you connect me with my higher self, then it's not appropriate, because it's the person who wants that insight and information for their own growth, when I believe it is appropriate. And I do less of that channeling now because of the misunderstandings of people of what they're getting in touch with. They'll say, hey, can you connect me to your higher self? And it's only a higher part of themselves, by 10% maybe. And they're like, well, this is supposed to change my life around. Well, that's kind of your job and the channeler job to facilitate the energy of the reflection that you need. That's what their job is. So it's kind of, it's semantics and it's different for each person, but it's absolutely necessary to kind of feel into that energy yourself. And for a lot of people outside of the channeling sub community of the larger community, none of that really matters anyway. It's the idea that when someone either believes that they're speaking for another or they actually feel like they're speaking for another, it's an uncalled thing. It's an uncalled for thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you wouldn't want someone to just dip into your bank account and take your funds, and that's just your money. But to actually use, and would you think it permissible to all of a sudden start writing checks for another person, or to start contracting with them, or tell other people that you love them, or engage in marriage or whatever? But people just have a tendency to take everybody's vibe and just kind of just go. Then especially it's like, and then you wonder, it's like, sometimes I wonder this way, whether you understand this as psychology or metaphysics. I often see, we often see in our culture celebrities going crazy and stuff. And I sometimes wonder how much of it is attributable to people taking their name, whether it's in the form of channeling, or whether it's people gossiping about them, or talking about them, or writing about them, or speculating about their love life, or even just their own closing their own eyes and having their own romantic fantasies, and all the physiological resulting ephemera, resulting energy from that. You know what I mean? It's incredible. But like I said, like we all kind of know, we live in a community where these things that seem patently obvious to be questions and queries to be having are often conversations that don't occur. Yeah, so I mean, it's all very interesting. I also want to make a cheap joke: is that why is there no one exploiting the untapped potential of channeling people's lower selves? You know what I mean? Now I'm gonna go ahead and trademark www lower self. I channel your lower self.com.
Can I say something to you about your point about the energy grabbing? There's really so much to that. It's like a black magic thing. You invoke, you take from people. There's the scientist at Human Colony, Max Rempel. He's a PhD not physicist, but geneticist.
Right.
And he told me, which I found to be so fascinating. He said that he never does any experiments using his own blood. Because he finds that when he does the manipulation of his own blood molecules, it affects him physically. And that's sort of a known thing within the geneticist community, that even though the blood has been taken out and has been separated out, that they don't work with their own blood, because some of the things that they're working with, I mean, and this might sound crazy. And I was like, are you really sure? And he was very serious. And he's a published PhD. He says they never work with their own blood, because when they do, things happen in the physical body.
And that's got so many crazy implications for just notion. Like, let me say this, is that if we start talking about things like blood magic, just in the same thing we're talking about channeling, I tell people all the time, like when I say I'm an atheist, I'm not an atheist. There's an aspect of me that knows that I might be engaging in thoughts and thinking and playing with ideas and energy, that it's mythology, it's mysticism, but it may not have any causal connection to the real world. But I say, but it's still so fascinating and interesting that people, what do we notice as it's like people say like, oh, that's just superstition. Like superstition is born out of observation. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I'll tell you this much.
You know it. I know it.
If you want to talk about the notion of blood magic, and maybe kind of getting off on the thing, but what people need to know is understanding is that there's so much that happens with genetic research, where some guy, some gal passes away from some form of cancer, and their cells are cultivated, the physical ephemera of their body is taken, it's studied, and then some global international corporation who they've never met, who they don't know, because it's the result of some soul contract that they signed in a doctor's office, usually under various levels of duress or simply not understanding. You can go to a doctor's office and they can send you the kind of fine print that you used to find in the box of your VCR, you know what I mean? Like warranties out the wazoo and under these conditions and circumstances. Or the best thing is like when you go in for surgery, they go, basically, you need the surgery. And if you don't have the surgery, you're going to die. And please sign this piece of paper that says, if you do die, you know what I mean? You literally signing your life away. And there's so much stuff that has to do with like, I mean, look,
it's energetic as well as being actual. And that's the thing that we don't have the full comprehension of. It's impossible almost for us to like conceive of all the different levels of everything that we do, you know, and that to me, when he told me, I thought, wow. And then, you know, and if I think about like in Hinduism, and there's so, you talk about the ancestry, you know, the ancestor worship, they basically, they say, until you clear your own karma with your parents, you can't even begin to move forward as a soul. So that's why they spend so much time, you know, venerating the parent, clearing the karma. And they also talk about in Hinduism that if once a soul becomes enlightened in this life, the ancestors rejoice because they can have the chance to have their karma cleaned. And there's so much things that go on and on and on through our stream of consciousness, through our stream of DNA. DNA is so important through our physical footprint that we leave. We don't really understand all the levels, and things do have an effect. What you speak has an enormous effect. The sound of your voice. How do you use the sound of your voice? Like you said, you have a consciousness that maybe by saying certain things, you're creating them. Well, in fact, we are. You know, it's such a responsibility we have. So for anybody who's at all awakened and on any level, you need to get serious about your footprint in the world. You know, what are you saying? What are you speaking? What are you thinking? What are you doing? What are your actions? Because they all have so many different levels. And the same thing with channeling. I'll say this, and people may or may not agree with me, but as a teacher, as a spiritual teacher, if I am knowingly misleading people, I am taking their karma. I'm creating not only bad karma for myself, but I'm creating bad karma because that it's coming from me. It is stemming from me. Whatever path I'm leading people down, if it's not based in the truth as I can perceive it in the most pure way, I am directly responsible for what that energy that I'm giving to someone who is receptive, even if they're receptive in ignorance. And it's so important. We don't realize how important our thoughts, our words, our actions, and our deeds are. And if we are at all awake, then we take responsibility for ourselves on every level. My guides, Theos, used to say to me, when do you believe what you say you believe? When does your life reflect when you say that you know? And they said it to me over and over. And I was like, what are you talking about? And just as you start to see the many multi-layers of who we are as a person, the many multi things, we're body, mind, spirit, and we are affected on all ways by all of it. So the ethics of everything comes down to, what is your motivation? Why are you doing it? Right. And if you can answer that with the purity, you know, love is the law, love under will. If you can answer that, then that's the good thing. If not, you maybe want to check yourself. So
that's one reason I agreed to come on this episode and this show. I usually keep as much neutrality as I can in all subjects, because I am that type of person who can look at two sides of the coin and say, hey, I can understand both sides to a degree. I can understand why these people feel this way. And so, but this last year has been a complete show and tell of people who are teaching what they believe, or the showing of the truth that they are trying to bullshit their way into financial betterness, to fame of whatever level they believe they have. And this is why I wrote a post on my Facebook just a couple weeks ago about spiritual teachers. And the whole idea was spiritual teachers who say that they're the only truth, that they're the only game in town, and that no other teachers have what they have, should be a red flag for everybody. Because when someone's telling you, I'm the only one equipped to be enlightened, I'm the only one who has that tool to show you how to live the best, they're not being honest with you or themselves, or sometimes both. Right. And the stories from people about the Corey Goode situation, the Mintinho Masario situation, all of these things that have come to light to show people what their real thoughts and energy were going towards, that's what fired me up, because it's hard to sit back and not speak your heart when you're seeing people who are in a perceived place of power that all these people look up to, and they're telling them, hey guys, you're having a miserable time, just listen to what I'm doing and you'll be okay. And then 5 minutes later, they go off to the side and have a meltdown over the same shit they're telling you not to do. Mm-hmm. Hypocrisy is hypocrisy. Lack of thought. And by all means, I never tell people what they should or shouldn't do in their life, because that's not my job. But I sure as hell will sit and tell you, this is what my channeling tells me, that I should be living A, B, and C. I've got A and B down, but I am getting my ass kicked by C. Because what good is it to you as someone who looks at the channeling as a teaching if I'm telling you, oh yeah, I've got all this under control, I'm 100% perfect, but then they see me gain 20 pounds, or they see me not going on Facebook for a month. That's not helping them. And the people who are in this position to share that energy, who are being hypocrite, who are giving hypocrisy left and right, it's like these people are sharing these ideas and then hiding behind their own teachings as proof that they're doing what they should, or bending it to the will of their own. And it frustrates me, because if they're telling you I am a teacher and I'm the only one, right off the bat, they're filling your ears with horseshit, because you can't be a teacher. Everybody on earth, you've taught me things, CW. Karen, you've taught me things. Everybody who comes to me to get a channeling has taught me things about my life. I'm not a teacher. Right. What to do, what not to do. Yeah, right. You've got that one locked. See,
listen, at least by sole contract, every 10 minutes I have to interject a bad joke. You know what I mean? I have to, hey.
Well, that's why I love you. It's the great one. But it comes down to the real fact, honestly. If you think of yourself as only a teacher or only a student, you're never going to grow. When you see yourself as both, one who learns more than teaches, or teaches more than learns, that's where the real growth is going to be. And that's what this community is supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be about, who says what and what happens when and what happens where and how bad this thing is and how I'm the only one who has the right. It should be about helping each other grow. And that can't happen under everyone keeping their mouth shut. And it can't happen when people are lying to your face. Whether they're deluding themselves or telling the truth, they're lying to your face.
And another thing is that I feel like as a community, we're coming to a point. It's like you can do this out of vindictive, anything. Like it's like whether it's a samurai, whether you're the best samurai sword fighter, you're the best guy with a 6-gun shooter in the Old West. Are you using that skill to protect a village or to raid a village? Are you using that skill to be a Ronin or a hired gun, making 30 pieces of silver, 30 pieces of gold, or are you doing it to perfect an art or a craft? You know what I mean? It's like there's these powerful tools, but it's what you use it for and what you do it for. And capitalization is one thing, but then again, so there's all sorts of questions you could have about paying for services and stuff. But I think that's one of the central things. But where I was going with that, I lost my train of thought for a minute, but where I was going with that is that it's a tough thing to do, because in this community for so long, I think just as a kind of tradition based on a desire to be love and light and identifying acceptance as being superior to judgment, for so long, people didn't speak about things that they saw It's like, see something, say something. Things that they saw were wrong. I mean, when you mentioned some names that we talked about before, Corey Goode, Bentino Massaro. When it comes to a guy like Bentino Massaro, not to throw people under the bus, but when there's videotape of him, a woman in an audience asks a question, he runs this. I mean, I tell people all the time, I have familiarity with all sorts of different types of gurus and all sorts of different teachings. There are plenty of gurus who are gurus, and then there's plenty of gurus who are pimps, who are exploiters, and who are doing things that are bad and bad for people. And it's like, that's not my truth, but if that's your truth and it resonates for you, or you're on a journey, it's like sometimes it's like you wouldn't let someone just go on a journey off a cliff. You know what I mean? You wouldn't let someone who you truly loved turn to you. And we've all had this experience. I mean, hey, we're all hippy dippy rock and rollers. We've all had the experience of someone who being like, on something magical, key to another dimension, is turned to you like, I'm just going to walk into the forest, man. And I'm just going to confront the demons. And it's like, no, you're not. Actually, we're not going to permit you to do that, Joe. Put your clothes back on. You're going to catch a cold out here. And let's give you another marshmallow or grilled cheese sandwich. You know what I mean? You need to chill. You know what I mean? And for the rest of the night, it's like, okay, watch Joe. You know what I mean? He's got ideations towards walking into the forest without even so much as a pack of, a canteen of water. You don't let people do things that are bad for them, and there's so many people that are doing things that are bad for them. And not only is the devotee going to be victimized, but Karen touched upon it as well. Whether you understand it as being a metaphysical reality or whether you just know it as the pragmatic law of cause and effect, if a sinner is out here sinning and exploiting people, that's going to come back and bite them in the tush. If we look at Corey Goode, I've talked about it before, and I think people tuned into my message have heard me talk about it. What is happening to him right now is not the result of some dark alliance or cabal identifying him on the astral plane and deciding to come after him because he's such a righteous dude. What's happening with him is the result of his decisions, his interactions with people around him, his interactions with the community at large, and his interactions with the community and coterie of people that are his immediate fellows and surround him. And that's true for so many people in this community. And not saying it's like there, but for the grace of God, go you or I or anybody else in the room, in the live chat or whatever. So it's tough to do, and it's tough to call things out. But I think we're at a point in 2018 where it's like, you got to call this stuff out. You got to call it for what it is. And you at least, even if it's just putting the idea or the thought out there. And it's like, if I'm a judgmental jerk, fine, I'm a judgmental jerk. But I think that I'd rather risk being considered a judgmental jerk than sitting beside and doing nothing. It's like you wouldn't do nothing when the people are putting the Jews on the trains. At least you'd hope that you wouldn't. You'd hope that you'd do something, that you'd say something, that you'd act affirmatively towards the common good. I don't know if that makes sense or if you guys can work with that.
Yeah, it does. And let's talk about that. We've talked about the channelers who channel the higher selves. We talk about these channelers who are not authorized by family friends to channel. A lot of that I see are coming from young channelers who have only been channeling for a couple of years. And in my opinion, I was one of those people. I had my connection to Treb for 2 years before I started channeling, but as soon as I could bring the words through my mouth, I hit YouTube, and that was dumb. That's why you don't see the first 2 or 3 years of YouTube videos, because it wasn't a great channeling. It wasn't a good energy. So most of those people, you can say, hey, they're young and they're channeling, they're a bit naive, and it's forgivable. But we go to the Corey Goode thing, to the Bentino thing, and this is a different story. These are people who've been doing this for at very least a small handful of years and aligning themselves with people who've been in our community somewhat even longer. My personal opinion about Corey Goode, I don't have one. I don't know him. I have not studied almost any of his work. The only time, just like Karen said earlier, the reason why I even looked him up in the first place is because all the people in our community are saying, hey, have you heard this inner disclosure, whatever? And me and Colleen are like, no. So we went, and as soon as we watched the episode, I could not get through a whole episode. first, I know I do have this thing with Wilcock. As a investigator, he had a lot of really good insights on some of his earlier work when he did work with the pyramid, stuff like that. But as a journalist and as a person who speaks about spiritual things or metaphysical things, I've never really cared much for him. In 2012, he basically tried to work as a channeler. And when he saw that he wasn't going to be able to create financial abundance for himself, or that he wasn't going to be able to get into that next realm, he kind of switched his whole gear. Then he started talking bad about channelers. And that's where I started saying, oh, okay. So him and Corey Goode, someone told me, they just said 99% of channeling is horseshit, that no channelers know, and that no one can contact the Blue Avians but us.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And that's where I said, well, what? First of all, Wilcock saying 99% of channelers are horseshit, but tried to cut his teeth into this community by being one, the reincarnate, that is some more of that hypocrisy we were just talking about. And when he shed that and said, well, I can't really prove it, but I can prove science, and then went on to tell everyone, hey, 2012 ships are landing, you're going to be flying out your windows and, doing backflips and visiting your dead relatives. That was another thing, and I understood why he thought it that way, all of his law of one indoctrination, all of that, but he never spoke about it after that. Even when people begged him, please tell us what happened with 2012, please tell us, he refused. So right there, through that and the dismissing of channeling, I already didn't care much for Wilcock. So that didn't help me want to watch a whole episode with Corey Goode. And it just wasn't resonating with me.
Right.
The things they were talking about didn't feel right. So, people asked Ardif questions about what's going on with him. And most of the time, Ardif didn't answer because he couldn't answer. He's like, well, we don't perceive the version of reality in that way, but what we do see is this. Like the Blue Avians. Everyone's like, hey, are there Blue Avians? I've got on my channel channeling a Blue Avian. Not the same thing, though. Not a Blue Avian, not Corey Goode's, but there are beings in this galaxy that have avian appearances that are colored blue. And hey, you want a Blue Avian? Here's one. So you talk to them. And the whole idea that they've bastardized channeling is so that, in my opinion, the only way you can have this information is through us. Corey Goode and Wilcock are the only way you'll ever receive this beautiful Blue Avian message. And to me, I believe personally that people shouldn't channel other people's guides. Like people channel Bashar, who isn't Daryl Anka. I always am like, it never connects with me. I like Bashar through Daryl Anka, and that's why he channels, because they're connected. I like your Bashar, though. I do. I will say that.
Yeah. and for all we know, my Bashar is just some dude named Bashar who just shows up. Like, Bashar, that's fine. That's who I am tonight, baby.
You're the one exception in that I actually do enjoy. But even at that, I've never told anyone, hey, 100 people a year contact me and say, I feel so connected with Treb. I connected with them in sleep. I connect with them telepathically. I connect with Ardif.
Right.
They do. And that's because they love that energy, and it's connected. You can't cut out people from connecting.
Right. And just to do my job as the host, there might be some people joining us or watching us here for the first time, or meeting you for the first time on the channel, who don't know. So you talked about Ardif and you talked about Treb, and these are two individuals that you channel.
Yes, those are two entities I channel myself. Treb is the first one I channeled. I went through 2 years of telepathic, actually astral projected communication, where I go and meditate. One day I just slipped out into this experience with this gigantic reptilian-looking being, scared me pretty good. But that was Treb, and we talked, we hung out. I spent 2 years with him. And then I said, how can we get what you've shared with me that have helped change my life into other things? And after channeling him for about 2 or 3 years, he had a guide that was called Ardif, so I've connected them. Those are two entities I channel. And I know a lot of people who are here. Some of them are in the channeling community, some aren't. So, I don't care to say that this is the truth and this is the only truth. As you suggested, some people who channel, it could be all sorts of different things. But from my own experience, which I will never force on anyone else, I feel the realness in them and about them and with them. And that's why I channel, because to me it fits and it works. But I don't want everyone to just do that because I say, hey, let's just buy into what Rob's saying for tonight because he's got a cool matching beard with CW. So, those energies and entities that I channel, I resonate with. Otherwise, I would have never been able to channel them.
Right.
And that's why I don't listen. Even if I wouldn't have disliked David Wilcock as much as I did when I first started trying to watch the Disclosure Show, I probably wouldn't have watched it without people asking us, because I don't even watch other channelers. I've got tons of friends who are in the channeling community, and out of all of them, I only watch their things if I'm drawn to watch it, or if they're like, hey, I need you to look at this channeling, tell me what you think about it, or if we're looking for new channelers to join our events and stuff. Right. So for me, it's my own intuition, my own insight, my connection to my guides is what I use as my guide for truth. But it doesn't mean that I'm right. I know that my own my own perspective often paints the background of the world I live in too. So,
Right. It's the world of our understanding. We all come from our individual perspectives, whether we're looking out or looking in, right? And what we get that from there. Let me ask you this, because we have people here. So we've been talking about the topic of even this, is that trademarking. And in the spiritual community, there's a couple of different life lessons that we can look at this whole notion of trademarking. One of the first ways that it came up for me is this notion of, like, even starting in the 60s, where things like transcendental meditation, trademark, then it's like you're trademarking transcendental meditation. And also in modern times, we had this notion of Bikram yoga. There was a big court case involving Bikram trademarking yoga asanas, and people, like, as if they were written words on a page, or as if they were comic book characters like Goofy or Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck. And a lot of people thought that was really problematic. And then we see a new iteration of that with Corey Goode, both in the sense of that, I mean, the things I was saying before about Corey Goode is like what he's doing now is a manifestation of his inner dialogue and what he seems to be, how he seems to interact with the world and do things. It's like, even when he did that thing of talking about the blue avians, when he started talking about the blue avians, that resonated with a whole bunch of people. I knew a man who's no longer with us on planet Earth, who was involved in putting people in deep regression states. And the minute Corey Goode started talking about the blue avians, a lot of people were going into those states, and whether understand it however you understand it, why it was happening or why it was obvious or not obvious that it should happen, people were having these experiences, people were resonating with this. And the notion that then the guy's going to turn around and say, oh, but no one else can talk to these people but me, it's like if someone said to you that there's a house full of amazing people, but I'm the only person with the door, and I'm the only person with a key, and I can come in and come out as I please, but they have to stay over there and you have to stay over here, and I'm the only person that you can communicate to them. If you'd say that that's a messed up situation, you'd want to call the cops. You know what I mean? Like, why? And you also want to say, like, why would a group of individuals come across interdimensionally, come to this whole place to interact with human beings, and then say, it's like the notion of like, Rob, I got this situation. Okay. I got 10,000 pounds of gravel that I got to sell. It's sitting on my farm. It's killing the land. It's leaching into the soil. I got 10,000 pounds of gravel that I got to sell. But here's the deal, Rob. I'm only comfortable selling it one rock at a time. It's a 60-page contract. I need to know that these rocks are going to the right places and the right people. But it's $1,000 a pebble, but we gotta get these 10,000 pounds of rocks, and we gotta move this stuff. It's like I say to people all the time, like, At what point does your inside, BS detector go firing off and say, even if you're one of these people that's open enough to believe in the notions of mediumship and reincarnation and channeling and in telepathic communication and empathy or beings from beyond, at what point do you even say to yourself, just logically, there's a sense of logic that would even travel forth into that world to say, hey, why would any group of people do this? Why would, especially a group of people or entities that were being told have information and knowledge that's superior to ours? Why would they be playing these silly little trademark games? And also the notion of trademarking the name of a species. That's like, and then what's the purpose of that trademark supposed to be? Like, I don't know. and it's also a fool's errand because no one's going to respect these trademarks. You and I both know that if we go on YouTube and search for channeling blue avians, beyond the fact that C.W. Chanter himself is already channeling a blue avian, you know what I mean? They're blue avians all over the place.
Yeah, and it will continue regardless.
What do you got? It's like only we can talk about Jesus Christ, and everyone else that talks about Jesus Christ, well, we're going to see you in court, good buddy.
You see that in Christianity, don't you? My sect is the real one, and everybody else isn't the right one.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, but it's not even the fact that our sect is the real one and your sect is not. It's that our sect is the real one, and we're only going to let people know the truth one constituent at a time, one sales contract at a time. Yeah, I don't know. It's just so nutty.
Go ahead, Rob. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I was just gonna say, I also do my channeling for a living. So this is how I make every bit of money I make. This is how I support my son, my wife, and this is how me and Kalina put things together, and we make money. So I get a professional side of everything. Right. Like with Daryl Anka, when he did the copyright thing, a lot of people jumped down his throat, but they did it for the wrong. Yes, I did actually. And I loved your video. They did it for the wrong reason though. They're like, you're creating money off spiritual. Well, you know what? People pay him to do that, and they want to pay him to do that because they believe that that's going to benefit them. Then that's not a problem. The problem with protecting your work is also, I can understand that. We've had a lot of people after doing our events called the channel panel that were using that, but that has been around for a long time. So then people started doing the little logo that we do too, and we would get emails saying, hey man, you guys, I didn't know you knew this channel and this. And I'm like, what? So, I get the idea. You want to distinguish yourself, you want to do it. But to lay down a law that says, if this happens, you could be sued, you have no right to access this. Spirituality doesn't belong to me. Ardif doesn't belong to me. Treb doesn't belong to me. The Nihal don't belong to me. And even I channel an entity who everyone and their mothers channeled before I did, Metatron. That energy has been out for thousands of years. So how can we claim? What we can do is put the information out in a way that's distinguishable from other people. And that energy can be that part of that consciousness, of that channeling. And people will know, hey, Rob's great at channeling Ardif, but Joe Blow Johnson Smith down the road, he's channeling Ardif, not feeling so great. The people can tell you where the right information's from, or where the resonating information's from. But you don't have to lay walls down in between and say, this is mine, hands off. Right. Ardif, if I interpret him from the way I perceive him, he's been around for more than any human on this earth times 10 has ever lived. I don't own that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't.
Let me throw this out to the panel to talk about. When we talked about the Bashar, I mean, this is going back to 2015 that this issue with Bashar and Daryl Anka and trademarking, or it wasn't even a trademark issue. It was really people taking portions of his DVDs and clipping them and putting them up onto YouTube. Daryl Anka took a position. He made a video where he took a position and Bashar took a position on it, arguing that for various reasons they were going to copyright strike these other channels, and that, you know, that they were going to control this. What I thought was so interesting about that was, number one, I talked about that, about the notion of spirituality and money, but at the same time, like Rob, you know what I mean? Like, services, like anything that anybody does, it's like there's certain things that people, when it comes to spirituality, they want to do it in a complete vacuum. We're here on planet Earth. You know, we need shelter, we need food, we have loved ones. If we're going to provide this service, like even when I do this YouTube channel, I decided to, for a minute, long time, I was taking a position on no monetization, that had an aspect of purity to it. And then eventually I said to myself, you're putting hours into this thing. That's hours that you're not spending, you know, making money doing this, that, or the other thing, whether it be selling snow cones or digging a ditch or whatever, or writing a fancy piece of paper. You get, at a certain point, you have to just, you know, you can't justify starving to death. What I thought was so interesting about Bashar, and I'll throw this out to you guys to discuss, is, you know, Bashar may have done himself a disservice, because I do a thing here called Grateful Dead Rules. One of the things that the Grateful Dead did as a touring band, and that's been emulated by a lot of bands that followed up from them, is they allowed people to come to their concerts and tape the concerts, where people were like that famous episode of What's Happening, where Rerun gets busted taping the Allman Brothers at the high school play. I don't know if you guys saw that episode. Unlike that, the Grateful Dead used to say, yeah, they used to have a whole section right out in front demarcated for people with the big boom microphones taking crazy stereophonic 4-track recordings of these shows. And that's a lot of how the Grateful Dead were able to exist and became the band that we know them today, without radio airplay, without MTV play at all, almost at all, was giving it away for free. And when I saw Bashar do what he did, I thought to myself, you know, you may have done yourself a disservice, because there's a lot less. It might be that he's making more money here, there, the other thing, but there's a lot less people seeing a lot less Bashar. You used to be able to just put a Bashar video on autoplay, come back 3 days later, and it was still, you know what I mean? You were still there. It was like, it was great. I mean, I can understand the position, but to what position might he have ceded a lot of land or a lot of the spiritual airspace to other people by trying to control it in that way?
And I'll say this real quick, because I've got to jump off here in just a few minutes. So I didn't want to cut you off, Karen, either.
I wasn't saying anything because I know you got to go. So I was
thank you so much. Yeah. I personally have come to know Daryl. I consider him a very good acquaintance, even a friend. I consider him a friend. I don't know if he would me, but I've got to know him and his wife very well. My perspective of who Daryl was through what I saw, and then meeting him and spending time with him and his wife, became a different story. It's like that hard ass energy some people perceive that Bashar has. A lot of people project that onto Daryl too, but they're both amazing people. I understood the philosophy behind protecting your work because you're selling it, and he has a team of over 20 full-time employees that work at Bashar. April, Rochelle, all of them are the people who run all of that, and they have people to pay. And it, you know, I get that. I understand, but I also see the power in sharing what you can share. I've begged people, you know, before, if you're going to use any clips from me, just let me know and link it back to my website and have at it, because that's where most people get a hold of my channeling. Like my buddy, I'll call him Jason. He does the channeling channel, and he's been following me for a while, and he's very, very passionate about my work. And he takes clips all the time and shares them. And a lot of people have said, hey, I saw this thing on the video called The Greatest Channeler in the World, and that's where I found you. So it's done me personal service financially, because people come, they pay for sessions. So it's a great place. Ween is my favorite band. Right there, the Ween poster.
Oh, yes. What? I was like, why do I recognize that?
Yes, that's Ween.
Hey,
they do the same thing.
Daisies, baby.
Push the little daisies. They do the same thing. They say, we're going to make it brown tonight. Everybody pull out your cameras, record, share what you want. They just don't want their album shared around. So I can see to that's Daryl's album. His DVD is his album. He doesn't want that shared. But clips, I don't think would be a problem, because most people I know who have found any channeler, they found them on YouTube.
Sure. Powerful,
Absolutely.
powerful stuff, crazy stuff.
And I've got to jump off, guys, before I go.
I know. Well, listen, now that we've made a connection and now that we've talked, hopefully we could do it again real soon.
I would love that. And before I jump off too, I want to tell you guys, Karen, I love you. I love you. It's great to sit down, chat with you. CW, it's great to meet you and connect to you. I've been watching your videos for months now. And I love you guys very much. And thank you for letting us share our points of view on these subjects. They're important. So I'd love to come back anytime you have me on and we'll chat more about it.
Absolutely. Before you go, you mentioned that you had an event. I don't know if it's sold out or if it makes sense for you to promote it or if you want to tell people about it.
If people are interested in channeling or they're aware of our work, if you're in North Carolina from November 2nd to 4th, 3-day workshop, you can go to etwhisper.com/workshops. Check it out. It's 3 8 to 10 hour days in a row of channeling. Me and my partner, wife, Kalina. We do it together. So I'll channel, she teaches, we teach together. She'll channel, I channel. So there's at least 2 channeling Q&As a day. And there's lots of clips on YouTube. I just put up like 4 hours worth of old workshop footage. Check it out. If it resonates with you, show up, sign up for the ticket on the website. There's 14 seats left. We keep it small and intimate so that we can work one-on-one with people. There's 14 seats or 13 left. So.
Okay. Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And also, if I saw Kalina was in the live chat, if she pops in again, we can give her a moderator wrench and then she can add any sort of link right into the live chat.
I'll let her know too. I'm sure she's still watching.
And if she I don't know if she's got an independent setup, if she wants to tap in for you, because I know that you got to go do some work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've got a small apartment. So as I'm setting up, you would hear me banging around, and then all of a sudden,
Gee, what's involved in a one-on-one session with Rob? He's setting up. He's got props.
Rob also announced the channel panel. The channel panel, Rob.
The channel panel is something that me and Kalina do. Karen was a part of ours last year along with Darylanka. It's a multiple channel setup. We don't have an official announcement to make yet, but keep your eyes on the channel panel Facebook site and the channel panel website. We are doing an event this year. We've already got 10 or 11 channelers, including our very own Karen Neumann, who are going to be a part of it.
Hey.
And we're going to put that up very soon. It's going to be free for everyone who's there for the live broadcast of it. We'll announce when and where that broadcast will be, but everyone gets to watch at least 10 hours of channeling from 10 to 20 different channelers for free. Keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, she's got a wrench now, so if she's there, if she wants to add any sort of links or YouTube channel things or whatever, she's got moderator status, so she could throw those links in there.
All right, guys, I'm off. I love you guys. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing your energy, vibe, and input. It's definitely all these day after day of people screaming and yelling about trademarks or whatever. Get your energy in here. It's been amazing. So thank you so much for your time, and I wish you luck on your session.
Thank you,
Rob Gauthier.
Gauthier.
It's not. He's mistaken.
I'm channeling his higher name. Gauthier.
Yeah, make sure to channel my higher self's last name too.
Believe you me. Hey, Rob, once you go here, don't worry about it, because I'll just be like, he's
Love
back.
You,
there you go.
Kalina can channel me quite well.
Listen, and be careful what the old lady says. You know what I mean? Believe me, my wife can tell you exactly what's on my mind. All the time. Looking at me, sometimes it's like, you ever get this feeling? They're channeling you so much you don't have to be there. They're having the conversation for 2 of them. And I'd interject once they said something wrong, but I'm like, yeah, you kind of got it. That's exactly what I was thinking. You just want me to get out of this house so you can do what you want to do. I see you looking at that Xbox. I know exactly what you're going to do. Yeah, you think it's a good idea if I take care of that errand now? Sure you do. And it's like, I'll stop you when you say something wrong.
They know it's better than we know. And I officially go on record here. I've already done it once on Facebook. If anyone says they're channeling me, if I die, except for Kalina. They're full of shit. She's the only one I give permission to channel.
Hey, listen, like the blue babies, it won't matter. If you predecease me, baby, don't worry. You'll be there in heaven going, Steinson, no! And I'll be like, keep those super chats rolling, baby. It's Rob Gauthier all day long. Gauthier. Karen, watch out. I'll start channeling you right into your face.
That's fine.
Two-way conversation with yourself and your lower self at that, honey. Watch out.
www.lowerself.com.
Listen, I'll start telling dirty little secrets on each other. You know what I mean? Another thing about myself, Karen Neumann, is I don't even like.
I didn't want to know.
No, I'm gone, guys. I gotta go. I love you.
Straighten your mind out. You better start toning because you're gonna hear my voice in the back of your mind trying to make you crack you up. I'm gonna hunt you out. I'm gonna prank you astrally. You can mute all you want. I'm gonna prank you astrally. I'm gonna try and interrupt you all the time.
I'm gonna have to like put faults on all my windows now.
That ain't gonna help.
I'm thinking back to like voodoo. I'm thinking like, what do I do?
Like everything. Believe you me, I perfected the art of being a schnook. I'll come get you on whether you guard yourself with voodoo. I don't do voodoo, but I'm gonna look some people up. Well, it's the magical power of
something. I want to tell you something, and I also want to tell your audience something, if I can.
Good luck with that.
No, but because one of the things that attracted me to you, and I know Rob as well, and I was so excited that we could throw this together so fast today, but also so excited to hear that he was watching you.
Oh yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but it just, whenever I first started watching you there, and you even said it today, like you didn't know like if these communities could kind of come together. And I think they can. I think everybody has their thing. You've got the people who really want the science-based research. I want that too. I have to be really honest. I want to see that. I want to see science proving some of the stuff that I know. I don't always want to be, in a place where, the stuff that I'm perceiving and experiencing, is never corroboratable, if there's a word like that. But I just think that it's a testament to Rob and to the larger community of people that say would follow him, and that people they want truth. And so it's really nice to be able to have the conversation, and we can have it from many different angles, I mean, I love watching Joe in the Carolinas go off on his, stuff. And he looks at stuff from a perspective, and I think, yeah, you're really right there. And but everyone doesn't have to busy themselves with everything. Everyone has the stuff that gets them, excited and passionate and everything. And mine happens to be more on a, I don't know, spiritual seeking path of wanting to connect. And some people want the hard evidence of a ship landing and, chicken people walking off and, all those things. So I'm appreciative, and I just hope that there's more of this kind of conversation.
Yeah, I think across
the aisle. Maybe there's no aisle. Maybe we're just rows down from each other, What
I think is amazing, and what may be happening is that we might be seeing a kind of evolution of things, that every once in a while things persist as they are, and there's standards and there's protocols, and it is the way that it is. But every once in a while there's a rock and roll punk rock revolution. You know what I mean? And something kicks the tires and gets the fire set back up, or techno comes on the scene. There's just some break, and not like Terrence McKenna, talks about the notion of novelty, that every once in a while it's just boom, and then something kind of kooky happens. And it might be kind of what we're seeing now, like we touched upon, I think, a little bit in our conversation regarding the notion of this. There was an older paradigm that we'd known we could identify with, the whole sort of, that's not my truth, but if it resonates with you as true, I can respect it. But I'm not going to try and step on anybody's toes, and I'm not going to talk a lot of smack about other people in the community. And in the meanwhile, people are setting houses on fires, and it might be just that we're going through a new evolution and new revolution where people could talk about these things. But like even me, like guys like me, or my friend on the Eros, Michael Thompson, or Joe from the Carolinas, there's a world of people that kind of have their foot in two camps.
Yeah.
They're interested, profoundly interested. They're not coming to the New Age community. They're not coming to the spiritualist community to troll necessarily, but at the same time, they got a foot in the world of pragmaticism and realism and atheism or agnosticism, to call BS out on a lot of things as well.
Yep. Well, I mean, believe it or not, I also have a foot in that world. I am pragmatic in a lot of ways, and I do look at things very logically. And some of the most grounding stuff that you have is when you start to really, I like what you said about, can you take it into the real world and does it stand up? You know, I can genuinely say I can take everybody in this room and we can sit down and do a toning sound meditation, and you will feel something. You will experience something. That's very experiential. That's something that can be replicated and done. It may not be science, but in a lot of ways, it's a very practical thing. And then when you take something out and it just falls down flat, you have to say, is that really the goal of spirituality, to have nothing that you can corroborate in the real world that you can actually apply to your life? What is the point of it if you cannot actually, you know, bring it in? And if it makes you into this very fearful, you know, doomsday person who just, you know, if you, and I also think there's an element of the fact that people don't really believe some of this stuff. Okay, yeah, the guy may be sending the bombs now to the Democrats. Maybe he really believes in the stuff that he's saying. But I think there's a lot of things that people really don't believe, because if they really believed that this person was a pedophile, blah, 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 why aren't they going to the police? If they really believe that we were so mind controlled, why isn't everybody throwing away every electronic item that they have? You know, I think that there's a lot of false equivalency of what people say that they believe. And there's a lot of people who just like the thrill of the drama. And for whatever reason, they are titillated by the dark. They really like this idea that they're in on the knowledge of something that's so horrible. And, you know, but how is that really, how is that helping you grow as a person? How is that helping you make the world better? I mean, if you want to know what makes the world better, go feed starving children. Mm-hmm. Go do something.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, do something. I have to be honest, I don't like the term light worker. I've never seen so many emo, complaining people in my life. What light are they bringing other than talking about how terrible their ascension symptoms are? Go do something with your life, like feed a child, you know, walk a person across the street. I don't get it. And that was the frustration that I had that made me kind of seek you out in the first place, of just, where are we as a community when all we're doing is having this self-reflective, you know, self-indulgent, fake problem world where nothing really is happening. And the only thing that we're doing is sitting around wasting our time, where we could be using our words, our deeds, our actions to make this world better. Other than that, it's all just blah, blah, blah. Even the blah, blah is blah, blah. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's, and when you talk about light workers and this notion, well, it's like there's so many words like we talked about before, like empath or light worker. Yeah. I mean, some of my biggest trolls are all self-identified light workers. Oftentimes, there have been so many times where I've been cursed off 6 ways till Sunday. They're saying horrible things about me, my mother, my children. And then they end with, and I'm justified in saying and doing these things to you because I'm a real certified light worker, like David Wilcock and Corey Goode. Yeah. That's why I can identify you as low vibration. Like just today, oh my God, you know, if we wanted to, we could do. If you got a time for something humorous.
The clock went back now.
Oh, we got. There you go.
I just got an hour.
You're trapped. There we go. Got you. So there was. I'm trying to find it. Trying to find the best way to get it. There was a whole interaction and interchange I was having with this particular person on Twitter today, which is a nightmare scenario. But I feel like I just want to give this is a person. She says things like she's a Trump supporter. I'm not going to use any names, but I want to find a good one. Oh shoot!
I saw the one post about someone made something. I thought it was a joke, and then there was something. She was saying that what is it? Kennedy is a blue avian.
Exactly. I'm trying. I have to go back to the beginning of the beginning of the day. I've been literally talking to this woman for 6 hours.
By the way, yeah,
go for it.
No, I just say if you want to find CW, he's always on Twitter. There he is. Track him down. You want to know he's online? Go and see like if we posted in the last 2 minutes.
Don't give my secrets away. Now everyone's gonna be like, I know you saw my Twitter, jerk. I know you saw my DM. That's the other thing. Sometimes
daylight savings in Europe starts right now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, in Europe it's 2 weeks earlier. So for 2 weeks we've got a little bit of a bigger time difference. I'm in Holland, by the way.
There you go. I gotta get to the first one because the first one starts. Oh, I know what I could do with my tweets because I
How bad is it when you're on a webinar and we picked up our phones and are now busy on our own phones? That's not good.
No, it is good because this is gold. We're going somewhere with this. Trust me. Once we get there, and it'll only be a minute because it proves the entire point about the whole thing of this notion of people, like what people can say when they're coming from the point of view and perspective that it's totally allowable because they're a light worker, and therefore it's like self-justified. It's like, well, you see this all the time with the born again Christians, where it's like because they're a born again Christian, they can happily, joyfully tell you that you and your children are going to go to hell and burn in Hades forever because you worship the wrong God. Okay, here you go. I retweeted this. Say this is what awesome looks like. We were talking about Jordan Sather. I said ridiculous statement. So here's the lead-in. This is my quote about Jordan Sather. Someone says that Jordan Sather. Oh no, she started off with defend Jordan Sather. It goes fake news. CIA probably. Oh, where did it start? Okay, here we go. I'll just do it from here. She goes ridiculous. Jordan Sather is so awoke. The Galactic Federation of Light, Palladians, and Octurians, aka QAnon, know who he is. You have ascension envy. Your frequency gravitates towards dark of Satanists, while Jordan gravitates towards the light. Trump is an archangel. QAnon is the Galactic Federation of Light, headed by the unincarnated soul of John F. Kennedy Sr., who is a Palladian. His other life was Abraham Lincoln, and his current twin soul is Ivanka Trump. Make of that what you will. Freud could jump all over this. And none of you know any of this because you are dark.
Well, I still maintain that on what was the election day, November whatever, somewhere at 2 o'clock in the morning we entered Bizarro world and everything like what was good.
That's the whole notion. I mean, the notion of like from the born again Christians to also the white light workers of the world who have adopted, Donald Trump as their Lord and personal savior. And it's like there's an expression from the movie Zoolander. I feel like I've taken crazy pills. You know what I mean? It's just like it's where you start to try and articulate what you're trying to identify as wrong with the situation or why you think it's ironic or contradictory. And you stumble across the words and you don't even know where to get a foothold because the whole situation is so absolutely bent out of whack. And I try and tell people, I go, even if you're like, if you're a Trump supporter, first of all, the other notion is that at what level did we stop knowing and understanding post 1960, whatever, that the president of the United States, the prime minister of Russia, whatever, these people are just jerks. I mean, they're just politicians. Like, what do you really like? What do you invest in your time, energy, and effort in? Like, the reason everybody loves John F. Kennedy because he died young. Because you know what I mean. He died. He died without his. He died, and you get to put all your fantasies into it. And it was still America. It was young enough to believe and all this stuff. I go, people are people. I don't know.
I don't know how we've gone through this. There's so many things that you can identify. Like you can identify moments in time where things like started shifting and going in a different way. But I really, it's like it has become really sometimes light or dark. And it's like, what side, you say it all the time, what side of history do you want to be on? But to justify some of the things that are said, the way that they're said, the vitriol, the anger, the way that it's, it's like Mean Girls got into the presidency, or, it's just so, it's hard. There's no comprehension because there's no logic. It's flipped. It is actually literally flipped. What's up is down. What's down is up. What's good was bad. What's evil is good. And it's literally like a bizarro world. It's opposite world. You cannot, if looking at like those children being ripped from their, does not rip your soul out of your body and tear your heart in half, then you are a soulless human being.
Well, but then again, it's like,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's like, it's like when I started talking about Trump, and I got a lot of flack for people for taking things into a political direction. When I started, really getting overtly political about things, to just say, hey, look, not everyone in conspiracy theory land is a Trump supporter or a QAnon supporter. There are plenty of political progressives out here. You don't have to think that we're right. You just have to know and understand that we exist, and we came to our political conclusions for the same reason that you got to your political conclusions. Majority, inner psychology, inner drama, all that stuff, and a little bit of reason and logic as to identifying the problems of the world and how they may be healed. When I started talking about the hypocrisy or the contradictions of Christians supporting Donald Trump, I reminded myself, I go, look, I believe in the power of faith and religion in people's lives, but I don't necessarily believe in the power of religion or faith to change people on the inside. It's people use religion, and I think that that's okay. People need things to use, because if we think about the lynchings in the American South during the Civil Rights era, or before then in the era of Jim Crow, can there be any doubt in people's minds that many of those people that were later photographed hanging underneath the body of an individual human being who just happened to have the wrong skin color had spent that Sunday morning in church reading about the works and the love of Jesus? I mean, it's incredible how people can be.
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. That's where I'm from.
Forget about it.
Yeah. So that church where those people were killed was literally across the street from my high school.
Oh, wow.
And, I grew up in a time where the prejudice was very real. And it's still real, not as much in Charleston as it was in the past, but it was really real, where, Black men were called boy, and there was still restaurants where if you knocked on the door and you were Black, you weren't allowed in, and, things like that were so ugly. And it was just the idea being the church where white was right.
Right.
And it's coming to the surface now for the whole world to see, but it's always been there. It's always been there. But to be on a spiritual path where the premise of everything is oneness and love, the first thing you do is if your first impulse is not to just rip open I'm talking about ripping my soul out, but let's say not rip, but to open your heart to your entire humanity of fellow man, and to let go of the concept that you are anything other than just a soul in a meat suit,
Right.
Then you've missed the point completely. And I think that's the bottom line. The hierarchy, this need to have, I'm better than you because I'm different than you, because either we are or we aren't. And what we're seeing is the people who are embracing one concept and embracing the other.
Right. Or the Palladian light workers or Jesus Christ would be saying that what you need to do now, America, is build a wall, because there's people that are going to try and take your resources and jobs. And as we all know, the message of the Arcturians and the Palladians and Jesus Christ was always, keep your hands off my shit, right? It's my stuff, and you can't have it. And I'm not going to share with you because I'm still
But they've always been that way. They've always been that way.
Because people are people, right? I mean, people are people. And the notion of like at the heart of many spiritual traditions is this notion that if you want to get started doing it, if you want to get started solving the problems in your life, is you're going to have to deconstruct a lot of these rules and these things that you were holding on to out of fear of your life of what would happen if you let them go. ending with the fear of death. You know, you finally get to the point where I think the ultimate realization is if you come or you go, not endorsing suicide or anything, but the point is this, is that you get yourself to a level of peace where you say, hey, you know what I mean? I accept the fact that whether my soul moves on, or whether this aspect of me moves on, or that aspect of me moves on, I'm prepared to accept the fact that if I want to be happy and not fearful, I have to be prepared to accept the truth that this too shall pass. My money in the bank account may be here tomorrow, may not be here tomorrow. My health may be here tomorrow, may not be here tomorrow. My conception of what it means to be me, living and alive and well, may be here tomorrow or may not be here tomorrow. And accepting finally the ultimate realization that, yeah, dude, one day, even if you move on or don't move on, you're going to die.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're gonna let go of this.
Yeah.
Of this round of this
to go back on because I did a lot of, I know I was posting a lot of stuff and I was looking at all this trademark stuff, just to jump back to that. All of this trademarking, it's all based in this idea of scarcity, that I have to grab as much as I can because there's not enough if I can't, or there's the greed aspect of I want it all and no one else can have it. I felt that way a little bit with when Daryl Anka did his stuff.
Yeah, it was tough.
There's not enough market out there. So if I don't wall off my section of it, I'm not going to have enough. And I think you're right. I think in a way he did is wonderful. And he's a nice person. He's a wonderful channel. But I saw it as a fear move. I saw it as a fear move of a business idea of, I have got to protect my peace. And if I don't protect my peace, then there's not going to be enough for me.
Right.
And I see the same thing with Corey Goode. I think he's making a business decision based on the belief that if he doesn't corner the market, there's not going to be enough, because he does see people coming up. Other people are coming up, and the less predictions that come true, you got to make them bigger. That's the thing. That's the problem I have with channeling in predictions anyway, is nothing is good enough. Nothing is good enough. If someone comes to you and they have a reading and they want to know what's going to happen in their life, more than likely, day after day, their life is pretty much the same. Everybody doesn't have these giant, sweeps in their life. But if you talk to a channeler, everybody's predicting, this year, big changes. And how many times do you go on the energy? Oh, the energies are shifting. There's big energy waves. I mean, how much of that is true and how much of that is maintainable? How many big, huge sweeps are there? Pretty much day after day, life, other than this last couple of years, is very mundane from day to day. And when you make predictions, they don't come true. So you look at someone like the Corey Goodes, there's always a bigger thing out there because the audience sort of demands it. They get bored if you just say, oh, well, tomorrow we're going to plant some flowers and eat dinner. They want to know something big is happening. They want to have something to focus on. So I would say part of it is the fear and part of it is the spectacle that is sort of demanded to keep people's interest.
Right. When it came to taking those two things, when it came to Daryl Anka, oh, here we go. Yeah, absolutely. Is it Karen? Let me ask you: if I were to ask other people to join the conversation, would be that okay? If I gave a link out to the thing,
no problem.
Hey, let me do this. But as I'm doing this, I'll talk and speak at the same time. Modwiz, look to Skype. I can get the link to you there. Yeah. Oh, let me do this. Hold on, wait. Oh, hold on. Oh, I know how to do this. Hold on. I think I know how to do this.
Man can't do two things at once. Do you notice?
I can't. I can try to do things. Look, I sent you an invitation on Google Hangouts. On Google Hangouts, Modwiz. I think you can check Gmail or conversation if you see it there. Tell me if you don't. You'll figure it out. When it came to the Daryl Anka thing, I mean, it'd be one thing if Daryl Anka just came out and said, look, as a businessman or whatever, I've got this thing. Please know and understand that I'm making this business decision for this reason or that reason. Yeah. But then when he channeled Bashar to endorse it, that's what I felt like.
I did too. And most people did.
Most people did. Yeah. And it's like, are we right or are we wrong? And it's like, then Rob was able to articulate a very, I think, fairly cogent argument as to it. But it's like Christian apologetics. People will say, like, how could a loving God send people to hell for all eternity? And people have spent, literally thousands of years contemplating that question. Right. They'll have an answer. Oh, it's if you know the mechanics of free will. And what happens to the person that never heard about the word of Jesus Christ, whatever. Oh, well, if you look at this chapter of the Bible, it explains that, everybody will hear it at least one, whatever the case may be. It's what's known as apologetics. Yeah. It's a tough fit when you try and do those things. It's a tough fit. And do you win or do you lose? I mean, I think also it's like when we then look at the aspect of Corey Goode, it's so reactionary. And we oftentimes talk about this notion of, famine philosophy versus abundance philosophy, and the notion that you're going to have to react to everybody. And I can certainly relate to it. I heard a bell.
There's just a lot of clicking, but there's a lot of, I don't know what's happening.
No, neither do I. Well, believe it, join the club. At least you don't have to host the freaking thing. Well, no, as I was saying, let me do it like this also. Oh, I know how to do this. Here, I'll do this the alternative way. Bear with me. When it comes to the notion of there you go.
I think we channel all kinds of people. I used to channel, Temu was saying she channels her mom in the thing that scares her. I used to be able to, and you said it about your wife. I could tap into my boss and know exactly what he would think or do in a certain situation. I didn't even need to ask him. I could even have a conversation with him in my head, whether it was fictional or not. I could sort of shift my mind to that person by knowing them so well.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at it like you close your eyes and you can see certain people in your life who've been. Oh, he'll be there shortly. Beautiful. Okay, it's all working. It's working. I think it's working. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out what's going on. We'll be joined shortly by another interested party. So it'll be a good conversation. So what? It's like the notion that there's an intergalactic team out there that operates from the level of non-abundance, that operates from the level of choosing QAnon or Donald Trump as their voice box or message, or choosing Corey Goode or endorsing Corey Goode's actions of trademarking these things or these ideas, and reacting to new people on the scene by trying essentially to shut them down.
Yeah. I
mean, it's just incredible to me.
I just hope these guys land one day. I think it's kind of a we need them to either land or not land. I channel non-physical entities. They're not going to land. They're not in a ship. They're my higher self.
Do me a favor. I have to answer the phone. I have to answer the phone. My wife is called. Hold on 2 seconds. Talk amongst yourself. Just riff.
I'm gonna read some of the chat. Someone's saying they wanted a red-haired, green-eyed girl. I don't know why they're saying that. I'm a red-haired, green-eyed girl, but I was born a long time ago. Anyway, I don't know what I was saying. Oh Lord. Not only am I, very small in the picture, but you could probably just hear my voice. So I could play the ukulele. Channel the primary evidence of NASA for us, Karen. I don't channel that stuff. I'll tell you what I channel. I channel my higher self. I channel the truth of being. So I don't know that the primary evidence of NASA, I think you can maybe find by writing to the government as far as the Freedom of Information Act. I will help and assist you in writing the letter, but that's not something that I would channel. So your picture is the size of a normal YouTube video. That's true. If you're looking on your phone. Landing or not landing. Sing a song. I could sing a song. Yeah, Stefan, I do. I channel myself like, well, yeah, I do. I channel myself. What I perceive as when I channel is that I'm sort of accessing the part of me that isn't restricted by like my worldly views, and it's a more open part of me that allows me to just bring through probably a more pure aspect of myself. Yeah. Have I ever spoken in tongues? Yes, I did. I could channel. When I talked about channeling my old boss, it was more like I would just tune into my boss and sort of have an idea of what they were saying. But yeah, I did, and I could do a light language for you if you wanted. I was going to do a light language because they were.
Do it. Listen, believe you me, do it up, because I gotta get the kids just came home, so give me like a couple of minutes to get everyone settled and into bed. So if you want to do light language, take over the show, for God's sakes, take over, and then hopefully, God willing, the creek don't rise.
Can you make my picture a little bigger?
Yeah, you know what I could do? Here, check this out. There you go. Can you see yourself now?
No, I see you. Oh, maybe because I'm clicked on you, or
no. Hold on, talk to my kids now. Oh. Stay over there. Your kid. I'll go do this. Here, watch this. Yeah. Boom.
Oh, what Temu is, what you're talking about, the language, I have to be really honest. I don't believe there's any difference between the Christian way and the way that is that other people are doing it. Because everybody, even if you listen to the Christians, they have many different, they don't all sound the same. Nobody sounds the same. I tend to believe that light language is your sort of soul language, and that it's allowing you to express something that you, I like you, Modern Wizard. But it's allowing you to express maybe something that you need for either activating something within yourself. It can be a prayer language. It can have many different things. Ultimately, I think it's depending, and again, everything depends on where you are when you're doing it, and what is your motivation. Why are you doing something? Are you doing it from the ego standpoint, or are you doing it from the pure love standpoint? Because from whatever perspective you enter and see the world, that is what's going to come out of you. You're not going to get love out of hate, and you're not going to get hate out of love. So, but there's many people that speak in tongues. I know that there are moments when I don't, if I'm in a sort of prayer mode, it just will bubble up and come out. And I think it comes out because it's what my soul is speaking. So it's happened to people. Hello. Hi. I was on a yoga retreat with people, and we were doing sound. I studied sound in the Vedic chanting, in Sanskrit. And there was a woman, and she was doing sound toning. She was just doing the sound on a tone. And she just started, she'd never done it before. She didn't even know what it was. And she just started speaking this amazing language. It's within us. And it's just, if you're open enough, and if you're clear, and you're just letting energy flow, it will come out. So I'll speak my light language for you. I don't interpret my light language. Again, I just trust that it's what my soul is saying. So, okay. Shaliaraka Santi Mashoriama Lisata Koshamyala Ti Sambadikarama Loria Picasa Ti Kampa Loria Mindi Onia Mashalia Kasa Nevaria Mandalia Ikapa Doria Masilika Santi Shumbiah Iasati Koshalia Se Dumaniandiga Nora Sia Ia Picasi Lemigo Kumia Alliendi, Orient Kumanashila, Tucumbia, Ila si tantia mano rapica criselia, Duria santi compati, Toshalia se faria mana, Ora palaria si tucoshina mandar, Dumalia sinanamaco, Yashi amanda, Tushalia, Divandia mandora, Yandia, Shalia si comandalia si, Topaka patender, Mandia la recashanti shomoria sali kate mandio masha ya saka mandia shanida noria pasasi la kamade ko shalia masiyama. Daria Samoria Siaka. Yambantu Mandia Sharia Sati. I'm not cussing. Maybe I was. I don't think so. Thanks, Rooster. That's awesome. He's telling me I'm cussing. Thank you. Hi. I've seen you on the show before.
I occasionally step on with CW.
Yeah, you were talking about black magic, I think, once, whenever. Were they talking? You were talking about magic, I think.
Well, magic is, kind of the milieu I live in.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, I have a background in hermetics, and I've studied that quite a bit. So it led me more into Hinduism, and that's been more because I follow more of a bhakti path. But I do appreciate the hermetic style and hermetic mentality.
Hermetics to me is its own branch of magic that I'm not a partaker of, but I enjoy alchemy. I mean, alchemy is a language.
Yeah.
And alchemy is the language of hermetics.
Yeah.
But I'm making a differentiation between what I consider to be a deep and a broadly applicable language, and how it can be applied in different ways of interacting with that other space, that dream time space.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of hermetics.
Okay. I enjoyed the study of it. There's something, I live in Holland, and they've got the Rittenberg library here. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's the largest hermetic library in the world. There's over 40,000 books here, and they have the original books and tablets of John Dee.
Yeah.
So,
so
I've actually held that in my hands.
Characters.
Yeah, and if anyone doesn't know who John Dee is, he channeled the angelic languages.
It was a branch called the Ophanim, Ophanim. I really got into the work of Kelly and Dee.
Yeah.
And there was Dan Winter, who's quite an intellect out there, and does a lot of this work, especially around Dee and Kelly. And he had a guy, I forget whether his last name was Vincent or his first name was Vincent, actually lived in the Kelly's Tower in Prague.
Oh, well, yeah, that's really cool. I don't know if you know who Lon Milo Duquette is.
No,
but
I don't.
He's the head of the OTO now, and he actually went there and did a class there. But there's still someone living in that tower now that's the caretaker of it.
Yeah, well, like I said, Vincent. I think Vincent was his first name, but it could be his last name. He was kind of like probably the one who had done the most study on Dee and Kelly from a real good scholar, and he was a great speaker.
Right.
And so I watched hours of his study, his research on Dee and Kelly, and I even have it downloaded, the Enochian alphabet, and I was surprised at how quickly I was able to kind of like memorize it. But when I really tuned into the energy, I backed off.
Yeah, it is. How do you say it?
The Ophanim seem to be like some kind of rogue plasma beings.
Oh, okay.
And from what I can take, they're really quite potent. The turning back of the Spanish Armada was an act of magic by Dee.
Right.
And it was the Ophanim that he spent about a week doing preparation for that ritual, because he was channeling these really massive beings. The Ophanim are a really potent energy group, and again, they kind of fall into the angelic, but they're to me, the Western angelic really kind of comes from the gods, we'll say, and then there's this other group that do not seem to fall under the normal demiurgic control. They're just, but they're not very benevolent. Because plasma beings are like kind of, you know, you get into the top of the food chain.
Right.
And
well,
so
it's a very unstable, volatile energy that, you know, it's not sort of within our capacity to control or wield it effectively. I think that what Dee did was very wonderful, but if you look at the backlash he had in his life from that, it basically destroyed his life towards the end of his life, if you think about it like that. I don't know.
It's really interesting because he went and he never gave up being a Christian.
Right. Well, you know, what do you think about this? And I hope this is interesting for the people listening, but I was having a conversation with someone, and they were talking about demonic energy. And I said, because from my standpoint, I look at through the lens of the world of Hinduism. And I said, well, demonic energy is just our shadow self that needs to be integrated, and that the demons are just representations of this shadow energy. And the woman who came on, she said something to me, and I had to agree with her. She said, don't mix systems. Because if you're mixing the systems, you're not respecting the rules of the system. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Dee did. He held on to his Christian beliefs while trying to also conduct Enochian magic. And those two systems do not agree with each other. You know, I had one time, I had a Ganesha charm, and someone gave me a charm that they said was I don't know, some kind of fairy something or other. I put them on, both of them, a necklace. It kept breaking. It kept breaking. And I thought, why? You know, why are these two discordant energies fighting with each other? Because they're different systems and the rules are different. And yes. So a push and a pull. So whatever system it is you identify with it, that's why the knowledge of whatever you're doing, whatever system you're doing, you have to adhere to that. You know, and you can't, that's why metaphysics is such a sort of little bit of a dangerous philosophy, because people are pulling from everything and they're not adhering to a sort of certain through line that is a sort of known pathway that gives a certain effect. And it almost doesn't matter whatever system you choose, whatever gets you passionate, but whatever you choose, you need to stay on that path, or else you're mixing systems. You know, so that's just I don't know if you have a thought about that. Everyone who's saying that they want to talk with me, go to my website and send me a message. I'd love to talk to you.
It's one of the reasons what my issue with Hermetics is that I kind of come from I consider myself Gnostic in one sense. Yeah. But basically it's tying into the Sophian narrative of creation. That has been reconstituted by John Lamlash. But if you, even when I just look back, like even to the indigenes of Australia, Native Americans, and when you get into the Mother Earth, when you get back to Mother Earth as the center of things, that is one tradition. And then the tradition that is dealing with angels and other things and the celestial beings, that's another system of magic.
Right. Right.
And Hermetics deals with that other system. It's not earth-based.
Right. Right. I think whatever your system is, you stay within it and you operate within that. And then within that, those rules, you actually have a lot of freedom. You know, it's when you start trying to grab in all of these different things and they just don't tend to mix together. And then they cause, it's not that whatever's within the one system is true, but it might not be true in this other system. And when you have those things, people talk about hypocrisy and things like that, but it's really because they've sort of stepped out of the I want to say the Dutch word, the richting, the direction of the system that they are following. And we owe it to ourselves to learn everything that we can that has been in that system so that we can actively, and not only actively, but effectively exist and create within it, you know. And it doesn't really matter what it is, the system you choose. It's just what is it that you can commit to, that you can go from novice to expert in. And you know, the thing is, everybody wants everything now, but it's a lifetime of studying. You know, what you knew probably at age 15, you didn't know what you know now. I mean, vice versa. You know more now than you did, but everyone's in such a hurry to just get to the end. There is no end. It is a progression of expansion and integration and application that you can only have by the doing of it. And if you're jumping around all over the place, you become a master of nothing. And that's what's so beautiful, I think, about the mystical systems that really still adhere to, you know, the progression of what you can know. Because the first time you meditate, for instance, you only can get to a certain level. And then as you go deeper and you go deeper, not only are you going deeper, but you're experiencing more things. You're having different interpretations as these doors that can only be open to you on the mystical plane are accessed. Then you have the esoteric knowledge to go even further and further, but you never get there if you don't have the repetitive practice. And that's why everything's called a practice, a meditational practice, a yoga practice, a magical practice, that you're practicing over and over and over again the skills that you need in order to learn and to understand. And to,
wasn't ancestor veneration mentioned earlier this evening here?
Yeah, that was the first thing CW was talking about.
And that really perked up my ears, because I'm hearkening for the ancient traditions, you know, the mother-based traditions, and ancestor veneration, because it wasn't worship. It was about celebrating the accomplishments of a tribe or a clan, a family within a tribe. It was about celebrating accomplishments. I mean, even in Lord of the Rings, you hear like, oh, maybe what I do will get its way into a story. Because that was, you know, that was, you know, did you make it into the narrative of your people by doing something? Because that was who made it into the narrative. And so hearkening back, so really what we see from the ancient world, the reason why there was ancestor veneration is because we hadn't come up with the concept of heaven or hell yet. Heaven and hell is a later introduction into our psyche. And so there was the understanding of continuity, and that's where where reincarnation comes in, where there's a space we occupy in between lives, but it's that same kind of space that we are in the magical space. It's, you know, it's that supernatural space, and super means nothing more than above natural. It's a continuation of natural. It isn't, you know, this veil is, you know, kind of vibrationally, it has to do with manifest and non-manifest based on a certain kind of, you know, frequency boundary. But it's all part of one continuum. And so what I like about, you know, when I hear about ancestor worship is because that's when we were connected to the earth and the continuity that we had emerged from nature. And just like the trees kept on coming back, so would we were so based in what sustained us, which is this planet and its ecosystem.
I'll offer this as an addition to what you're saying, because I agree with what you're saying. You know, our parents are our first experience of the masculine and feminine that we have. You know, we experience the divine feminine, the divine masculine through our parents. And that is our first entry into this world. And so it is so important for the progression of the being to be able to have that in a good place within yourself, regardless of your personal experience with your family. And usually there's something that was maybe not the optimal experience, but that first divine and masculine, well, everyone's just human, right? So, but our first true experience with that. And so in order for the soul, and again, I'm staying within my system of Hinduism, the desire of the soul is the moksha, the liberation, to be free of the cycle of birth and death. In order to go to that next place, in order to progress as a soulful being, we have to integrate and make peace with, and sort of, you know, like the shamans, they go and grab the pieces of the soul to sort of rebuild the being to be whole again. Part of the veneration of the ancestors, and especially your mother and father, the understanding and the honoring of them, is in order to heal yourself so that you can move forward. And until you do that, you can't. You know, until you do that, you really can't. Welcome back, CW Chanter.
I really knew I would enjoy interchanging with you, because I've been watching this almost since the beginning, and one of the things that I really felt comfortable about coming on after somebody had left was I really thought the conversation was going in really sane places. It was it was grounded, and for me, grounded doesn't mean that it doesn't go into the supernatural, because the supernatural is a continuum, but it's grounded. It's full spectrum. To me, full spectrum will be both grounded and will go into the ethereal, but it's because it's a continuum. It's that right and left brain operating like the V8 engine. It's not one or, it's, you know, tandem.
We have to be a whole being. If we're not a whole being, then we're missing the point. You know, it's not just, it's body, mind, spirit. It's all of the things. We're supposed to be able to live in this world in a way that we allow the teachings that we have to make us better. That's what we're supposed to do. We're not here to amaze people with our superpowers. We're not here to, you know, grab all the money. We're here actually to just learn to be better. And yes, everything is an experience, but most of the things that you talk about is experience, because I know as someone had typed that earlier, isn't everything experience? Sure it is, but the experience ultimately comes down to your choice of what do you do with it? What are you going to learn from it? How are you going to be in that situation? Are you going to be the wonderful person that you truly, truly are? Are you going to remember your true divine nature and walk and talk and live that way? Are you just going to keep re-establishing that you haven't, in fact, come to that realization, and you're going to keep walking down a path that emphasizes how much you don't know who you are? I mean, I say that, and this is what I channeled for people, and this is what Theos, my higher self, said to me, is that at any given time there's always two things happening. There's knowing who you really are and not knowing. And everything that we have is either a testament to one or the other. And it's in varying degrees. But when you know who you are, if you know that you're divine, if you know that you are love, if you know that you're here to experience, you know, but from the perspective of being awake as opposed to the perspective of being asleep. And that's always what's going on. And we're always in, my teacher says, we're always in a state of revealed or concealed grace. So that when someone is walking around acting like a jerk and being an awful person, you can look at them and say they don't really know who they are. You know? And then you can love them for not knowing who they are, with the expectation that when they realize it, that they can make their life better, and vice versa. And we're always in one of these two states. So the goal of life, from my perspective, is to remember who I am, and to remember not only who I am, but who everybody else is. And probably, if I can remember who everybody else is, I will have the realization of who I am. You know, Lon Milo Duquette, who is a wonderful person, says he would love to be on a show with us too. He said, God and I will achieve enlightenment at exactly the same time, which I think is like the most cosmic, big, amazing, beautiful statement of anything. That because we are that, you know, I am that bigger thing. When I awaken and I know who I am, well, that is just coming full circle into your full self. So That's the goal of life, and everything else is just distraction, really, and keeping us either closer or further away from that, bringing us to it or taking us away from it. That's it. It's the simplest line. So, okay, I'm done. What?
So this is, I feel like a horse's patoot. Here's what's so hysterical about CW Chanter. As we're doing the thing and Rob has to jump off, in the back of my mind should have been a voice that said, oh, that's right, and that's okay, because at 9:45 your wife is going to come home with the kids, and then you and your wife have plans to watch a movie or something, and then I'm inviting new people into the program. But it sounds like you guys are having a good conversation. But we're going to have to kind of wrap things up a little bit. I don't know if you guys want the conversation to continue on Modwiz's channel or Karen's channel or table for another day. But what I wanted to do, because this is the whole kind of all the energy that's been in the room, because I haven't had a chance to talk to touch base with Radagast during this whole heat up with the Corey Goode stuff and everything. I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions about your thoughts or beliefs or ideals or desire to talk about these things at all. But before we close out, because I have you here, Radagast, and because all this stuff has been going on, do you have any particular perspective that you want to share about Corey Goodegate, however you want to, the trademark issue or anything like that?
Yeah. I would call it the Corey Gate part and not the trademark issue. And it's because of the story that reemerged on your channel a couple of nights ago with Groovy Bean. And I feel that at the heart of all of the skankery around this blue chicken cult, that there is something that's truly, really ugly at the core of this group. And Groovy Bean has the evidence of that. And so as everybody, oh, he's not pursuing the trademark. Oh yeah, they're just a little bit diluted. Nothing to see here. No, there's a lot to see here. And that's just what a bunch of dark-hearted scumbags are at the center of this. Right. So what I been kind of doing was seeing if anybody else was going to help her continue that, because to me that is the heart of, that's where they cannot cover. They can't like pull back on the trademark or say this or say that. They did that shit. And there's no backing out. And to me, if we're really enough is enough with these clowns, to me, that's the lethal poison. After that, because now it's a human interest story. There's a person who has been harassed, doxxed, forced to make real life adjustments within her family to adapt to this. So I just wanted to see whether or not any of the people who like yourself, you have so many more subscribers than me, Daniel, if somebody else was going to run for it. And if not, then I was going to invite her on my show, because I don't want that story to go away.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent point, and that's part of my anxiety that I shared last night when I was talking about this stuff. People were celebrating last night. It was a big point of celebration in the community that he had rescinded this trademark issue. Number one, following up on things on Twitter, following up with people, and knowing the history of Corey Goode. If he doesn't come with an official declaration, a signed letter, a notarized letter that he sent into the trademark office saying that he abandoned that trademark, don't count your blue chickens before they're hatched, right?
Right.
But another part of my anxiety was that there were a whole bunch of heavy hitters that the big central argument and issue for them was that whole trademark on secret space program. And it's like the analogy that I had was, there's people are engaged in this great battle and the battle is won. And it's like, okay, are we going to go get the evil wizard in the castle? And a lot of people are saying, well, no, we defeated the army that was threatening our farm, so we're going to go back home. And without the pursuance of keeping the heat on and keeping things going, and that's the other thing, is that like these people, no offense, it's like the guy at the central of the story. Like people say to me, like I had the whole big thing with the guy on Twitter today because he was basically saying like, why can't you just call Corey Goode someone you don't necessarily believe in rather than calling him a liar? And it's like, because I believe that he's a liar. Like I don't say these things or throw these things half-dash. Like Corey Goode is a known entity in this community. People have had personal experiences with him, and I've talked to enough people with personal experiences of the guy. Do you know what I mean? It's like I never met Adolf Hitler, but I don't know if I have to, not to be hyperbolic about it, to know that the guy had issues, right? You know what I mean? There's a real problem here. So as people are resolving the TM thing issue, I think that people do need to know and understand, because that's the real threat. I mean, look, what's he going to do was he going to destroy ufology as we know it? I don't know if that was a realistic fear, but what is definitely realistic fear is him keeping his individual cult of personality going, moving things on, moving things along, and just victimizing new people or subjecting new people to this thing. So definitely, I know that Groovy Bean was very interested in having her testimony go forth. So she might very well be interested, and I know that she's in the live chat, so yes, she can make it. You know what I mean? Know and understand that I definitely think that that's something that does need to keep on moving forward, and a part of the story that we need to, as people are leaving the battlefield, the people that remain need to circle the wagon, stay huddled up, and keep doing what we need to do in order to just make these alternative notions and ideas about this situation known. Do you know what I mean? And understood and published and promoted, so that it reaches saturation in the community, because he who owns the megaphone and he who speaks last is going to be the voice that resonates through the masses and for the people.
You know, he wrote the letter last week, right? When the letter was written in opposition to that guy last week, but he started the trademark process last March. You know,
yeah, no,
this is,
see,
if we wouldn't have known, even if he hadn't written that cease and desist. So maybe you want to speak.
And it goes to show you, like, this guy is famous. Cliff Eyes point out for a marketing cult, these guys are really bad at marketing. They're famous for shooting themselves in the foot, because look, a caged animal doesn't make rational decisions. A caged animal strikes out at the guy with the gun. Do you know what I mean? This is what can happen. And I do know that I need to wrap things up and close out the thing, but I know that Groovy Bean is already in the live chat mod saying that she's very interested in the opportunity to keep on speaking. So I think that we can, if you don't have her info, I could definitely help pass that along and make that connection happen. But what I would want to close with is the notion of this is to say, yeah, we need to know and understand that there's going to be a whole bunch of people who need to be identified as people who knew that he was seeking the trademark before this became an issue. Because if he had not done this thing with Jason Rice, no one would have heard that he had this trademark before any opportunity to file any opposition even occurred. And I would single out an individual by the name of Jimmy Church, who purports to say that he's friends with guys like Richard Dolan. How long did Jimmy Church know that this trademark thing was going on behind the scenes, that he didn't disclose to the people around him? Hey, guys, by the way, you might have an interest in this. They do. By definition, they have a legal interest in this stuff. And this notion of this publication to that trademark magazine, the Gazette, by the government. I mean, no one looks at that unless you're in the restaurant industry, unless you're in the manufacturing industry, unless you're in this industry. No one from this community would have been keyed into that or know that that was someplace that they need to watch out for, especially considering how unprecedented this whole action by Corey Goode actually was as far as seeking trademark. So there's this whole bunch of people that, if they were really authentic, would have come to this community a long time ago and said, and you know what? It's funny that we call about Corey Goode this whole notion of being a whistleblower. There were plenty of people involved in that camp who really should have whistleblown on this whole thing, who knew Teresa Yaneros. It was her sister that acted as the IP lawyer. Why didn't Teresa Yaneros tell the community that there were trademarks being sought? Teresa Yaneros, now that this whole thing is blowing up, Dart journalist gave her praise, and Joe from the Carolinas gave her praise. I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve praise for coming out at this point and saying that the seeking of trademarks was wrong. But when did she know? What did she know, and when did she know it? To be telling at this hour that Corey Goode's house is burning down, for her to jump into a fireman's arms and say, "Oh my God, I knew that there was a problem there." Yeah, well, you should have said something. You should have said something to the community. You should have told your sister not to act as his attorney.
I think this is where Groovy's story has some applicability, because Teresa Llaneros might know what it's like to suddenly be part of the Dark Alliance, and that means to have a disagreement with them.
True too. I gotta watch myself too, and it's not assume facts on evidence, and not to jump to any conclusions about who may have wanted to say something and couldn't, or whatever.
Because on the Nox Mente interview, Teresa Llaneros was one of the wisest women I've heard speak in a long time. I was blown away. I'm like, wait a second, this is a Blue Chicken Cult supporter? I mean, this woman, she represented herself. I thought she brought through a really good energy of the divine feminine. There was a certain poise she had, a confidence, command of the facts. I mean, she was like, full on feminine, but like in like a really powerful way that blew me away. And I was like, how do I square who this person just showed up as with this Blue Chicken supporter? And now she comes out with this little thing about she doesn't support the trademark. I have a feeling there's somebody there who is gonna take. She has a child, so she's gonna do what she can to keep some income flowing in. But at the same time, I mean, to break in with them is not only a monetary thing. I mean, again, Groovy's experience shows what happens when you decide you want to walk.
Now, here's what's interesting. So we have not to jump in on you, Karen. Because
that was my comment. I was like,
table your ohms until after the count. No, I'm teasing you. We have a cult priestess who was associated with who knows Jimmy Church and knows a lot of these actors and knew David Wilcock, and she's voicing the opinion that I think is a fair opinion, an alternative opinion that Teresa Llaneros might be complicit. Here's what I'm going to suggest at this point. I know that I've got plans for Monday, and I don't think that I've made any commitments to a show for Sunday, at least to the best of my knowledge and memory. So why don't we table this conversation? Modwiz, would you be interested? I'll put the call out to Occult Priestess and Groovy Bean as well. And Karen, you're invited as well if you so desire. Why don't we, I don't know if you've got plans for tomorrow night, Mod, but if you don't, maybe we could table this conversation and resume it. Because we'll get some alternative perspectives in the room, and we'll be able to talk and discuss it and hash it out, not necessarily concentrating on Teresa Llaneros, but just concentrating on the notion of how do we look at players coming in and out, the notion of forgiveness as well, right? There's an issue of saying that the sins of the past that people may have been committed or may have done need to be reevaluated or need to be seen. Now, I know I'm throwing this out at the last minute, and I'm, that could be a little bit awkward. So I'm not looking for any commitments necessarily, but if people would desire to have a round table, because I think what we saw tonight was a good notion of not just hearing CW Chanter export CW Chanter's perspective, but allowing a lot of different perspectives on the board as well. Mod, I would also like to get you involved because you've been integral in my growth, in my channel, in my existence on YouTube for a long time. And now that there has been an increased amount of interest and traffic on the channels because of Corey Gate, I would love to share the love and have you on and expose the people to your information, perspective, and energy in a longer setting as well. Do you have plans Sunday night? Could you join me again Sunday night?
This mean tomorrow night?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes, I have nothing on my schedule.
Okay, I don't believe I have anything on my schedule either. I'll put the call out too. Maybe I don't know if Groovy's available or not.
Especially with the panel that you mentioned. Again, because I want to be in the panel because tonight's panel has been particularly good because people are as interested in listening as they are in speaking.
Right.
And
yes.
So and that gets helped when you have good people on because, I want to hear what Karen has to say. I want to have my piece, but not until I hear her piece. And so there's a certain there's some panels play better than others, and I think it's ones who really have something to say, but also they're one of the reasons they have something to say is because they listen.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to be on if I can, because I definitely want to interact with the cult priestess. I liked what I saw and what she was talking
Okay, so
about.
let me see if I can get a confirmation. Cult priestess, if you're still in the friggin' in the live chat,
your friends,
yeah. So Groovy and Cult priestess, if you're in the live chat, if you could give some sort of confirmation if you'd be available tomorrow night to have another conversation or to continue this conversation or participate in the conversation, let us know. Okay. So Groovy Bean, if she has internet, yes. A Cult Priestess confirmed. So we'll at least have Cult Priestess back, and we might have Groovy Bean as well. And we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there because.
Can I bring up one thing I would like to be talked about tomorrow? Because it's the big question: is that because of trade? Because the only reason I know anything at all about trademark is I've had to do them for companies that I work for. So I know a little bit about what you have to do to establish your right to the mark in the first place. My big question is what is he using as his background for the proof of the right to the mark, especially when it comes to secret space program? What is he saying? And the fact that he's trademarking it for future use on comic books, to me is weird. And all t-shirts and things that are merchandisable, to me spells of royalty wanting. You know, and I mean, if you were a singer and it's your image, it's your face, and you don't want people to like make t-shirts with your face or whatever, okay, but what is the real, you know, is this only just money, or is this also a little bit more like what, you know, other people are saying about that it's the squelching of sharing of information, or is it both?
Right.
I'd like to kind of get more insight into that as well.
No, I think Look, I mean, let's do this. We'll tackle them tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern is a kind of a solid good go time that I think that I can commit to, and it'll be me, Modwiz, I keep on calling you Radagast, me, Radagast, Karen, Cult Priestess, and Groovy Bean if she's got internet. And we'll pick up the conversation there. We'll table it for now. We'll pick up the conversation there, and I think it's going to be very interesting and good discussion. I think it'll be good.
Cool.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful. So there you go. Everything happens for a reason. So I may have forgotten to, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. So like, oh, I blanked, and all of a sudden I invite Mod on. Or your Mod said he'd be interested, and it's like everything happens for a reason. So now we go. So now with the plans, our journey goes afoot. I think it's very interesting, very important. Thank you for bringing focus back to the story of Groovy Bean, because people need to know and understand. I'm going to say it simply, and then I got to go spend the night with my wife. We got Halloween plans, but 2 people came out and made a video attacking Groovy Bean on the notion that her testimony shouldn't be trusted, her testimony shouldn't be believed because she suffered from a traumatic brain injury. Okay? Make of that what you will, but then understand that these individuals didn't know Groovy Bean from Eve. There was no way that they could have known or understood what the traumatic brain injury was about, what the history of that was, what the impact on her capabilities were, unless they were instructed by a nefarious scumbag, cult leader, wannabe, narcissistic loser named Corey Goode and Roger Richards. Okay? They're the animals. They're animals. Okay? They're animals. And I don't care. And you want to come after me? Come after me. You're an animal. You did what you did. You're a person in the public eye now. You put yourself up as a secret space program, super secret empath. Where was your empathy? Or even if you knew that your detractor had a traumatic brain injury, that you would bring that up. A person who's an empathetic person says to themselves, there's a million weapons in my arsenal, and these 9,999 I will not use because they're base and they're deplorable and they're egregious, and only an animal would use them. Okay? And then to do that, and then to not even have the guts to put the knife in the person's back yourself, but to send 2 little acolytes to do it, and thereby wash your hands. Those are the methods and methodologies of a calculated, narcissistic, wicked man. They are. That's how I see it. That's my perception. That's my evidentiary support for my perception. And so we'll continue the conversation on that dramatic note. We'll keep the conversation. We'll continue the conversation tomorrow. Sound good?
Yeah.
Cool.
We reconvene tomorrow, 9 p.m. Tell the people 9 p.m. tomorrow, thereabouts. Everyone knows me. We're going to continue this conversation. God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll have Groovy Bean. Even if we don't have Groovy Bean because she doesn't have her internet full up, she has me on Skype and she has me on DM on various platforms. So she'll always be able to give us her word directly, and we'll be able to put her testimony forth.
Well, I just want to say that Crystal AMSR said, Modwiz, you need to do a live show after this. So I'm at 11 o'clock, which is a half an hour from now. I'm playing with the idea of just, continuing the conversation and maybe just getting on my soapbox about what happened to Groovy a little bit. And just, I don't know. I might not.
Hey, listen, the great thing is, this is one of the great things that we've been having going, that me and Joe and Dark Journalist had going yesterday, was the notion of passing the torch. So look, I mean, my live stream's going down as far as I'm concerned. Look, I mean, 11 p.m. It's Saturday night for a lot of the cats and kittens in the live chat. Follow over. Oh, and you got moderator status, so you can throw the link to your YouTube channel in the live chat, so people can go ahead and go over and endorse, subscribe, and then they can join you over there, and the conversation can continue however you see fit, and however you do it. And I'll catch the repeat tomorrow in preparation for our discussions at 9.
Okay.
And that's how we'll do it. So I'll let you guys say goodbye for this segment, for this section, for this avenue. So Karen, you want to say goodbye in summation? You've been here from Jump Street.
Yeah, everyone, it's just been a pleasure. It's nice to be sitting watching CW. It's also nice to sit in the room with them, and it's been just really great to share all kinds of information going on a bunch of different places. But again, it's just nice to be part of the community and sharing with everybody. And the Peace Pool who said they want to get in touch with me, you can go to my website, which is KarenNewman.org, and you can send me a message and we can definitely get in touch. So thanks for that, everyone. It was nice to meet everybody.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Radagast, my man, you got anything to say for this brief goodbye before you resume the late night shift, the quiet storm?
I'm good. That's why I have my own streams.
There you go.
I remember that when I come on other people's channels, I have my own stream to say my main spiel. So try and add, bring a conversation rather than my soapbox.
There you go. Fantastic. Well, wonderful. We appreciate that for you. And my hat's off to you. My wizard's hat's off to you, sir. So there you go. So I'll say goodbye, and I'll say a thank. First of all, Rob Gauthier. Gauthier. And I should know, because I'm constantly accusing Dark Journalist of being a closet goth. So there you go. I should remember. I should have this on the tip of my tongue. Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer, bringing his wonderful, lovely energy to the proceedings at the beginning of the evening. My thanks to Karen for being here for the duration, and my thanks for my boy Radagast for helping close us out and building a bridge to his next stream and to the discussions for tomorrow. God bless everyone in the live chat. God bless everyone in the live chat for participating, hanging out. I know there have been people here from Jump Street. Thank you, everyone, again, for participating and helping out in the show. Look forward to having the conversation, the important conversation, continuing tomorrow. Modwiz's link is in the live chat. Subscribe. Well worth it. Wise man. He's kind of like CW Chanter, but makes a lot more salient points and a lot more calm tone of voice and doesn't yell so much. Great guy. Awesome.
Which is why I have 1/3 the subscribers.
Ain't that the truth, right? There you go. As the Archies rocket to #1, Procol Harum spend their days in the cutout bin. It's just the way that it goes, baby, right? It's just the way that it goes, baby.
It's me being authentic, and I'm fine with it.
God bless. God bless. So we'll close out for tonight. I'll thank everyone. And as is my habit, I say, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love everybody. If nobody told you that they loved you today, someone crazy enough to believe it just did. Okay, suckers? So I love you, I love you, I love you, and we'll talk to y'all real soon. Hang out on Mod Wizard's channel at your leisure and so desire. I highly endorse you definitely check it out. Take a sip from that nice flowing holy river. Thank you to Karen. Her websites and links are in the description box below as well as my Patreon. There you go. Feel free. Give to receive. That's what I say. It's love is a two-way street. I love you all. I love you all. I love you all. And I'll talk to you guys real soon. Okay. Take care for now. We'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.